Welcome. This is 3 hours of small, useful, and quietly interesting pieces of knowledge. Short stories, gentle explanations, and practical things you might find worth remembering. Each segment will be short and self-contained. One more thing before we start. Throughout the video, there will be randomly placed knowledge nuggets, short and especially practical pieces of knowledge that you'll be benefiting from. Let's begin. World War I, a small moment that changed much. Around 1914, Europe was a patchwork of empires and alliances. For many people, daily life continued. Markets, trains, newspapers. But beneath the surface, a complex network of treaties and national pride had built tension like dry grass, waiting for a spark. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo ignited a chain reaction of declarations and mobilizations. Carried out by a Bosnian Serb nationalist seeking independence from Austro-Hungarian rule, the killing pushed Austria-Hungary to declare war on Serbia. Alliances quickly drew other nations in, turning a regional clash into a global conflict. When the war ended in 1918, the Allied powers, including Britain, France, and later the United States, emerged as the victors. The Central Powers, led by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, were defeated. Germany faced harsh reparations and territorial losses. Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire dissolved entirely, and new nations were carved out of their remains. Though victorious, even the Allies were left deeply scarred by the immense human and economic cost. What makes that long and difficult chapter so tragic isn't just how it began, but what it became. The First World War consumed an entire generation. Millions of young men were sent into trenches where mud, disease, and machine guns defined survival. Civilian life was transformed as economies turned into engines of war, and families faced hunger and grief on an unprecedented scale. Why the euro came to be. At the end of the 20th century, many European nations took a major step toward economic unity by introducing a common currency. The move had practical goals: simplifying trade, removing the hassle of exchanging money, and making cross-border commerce smoother, as well as symbolic ones, aiming to strengthen a sense of cooperation after a century marked by conflict. The currency, the euro, first appeared in financial markets in 1999. And a few years later, people in participating countries began using the same bills and coins. For everyday shoppers, it made transactions simpler and travel easier. For governments and economists, it represented a complex experiment in shared monetary policy, requiring coordination across borders and careful management of national interests. The introduction of the euro also brought questions about sovereignty and trust to the forefront. Countries had to balance local control of their economies with the benefits of a larger, more stable system. It was a practical change that touched daily life while also shaping political and economic relationships across the continent. The Mona Lisa and how fame happens. Leonardo da Vinci painted a small, unusual portrait that later became the most famous painting in the world. For centuries it was admired mostly by artists and collectors. Then, in the early 20th century, someone stole it from a gallery. That disappearance created a kind of public hunger. Newspapers wrote about it. People lined up when it returned. The painting's quiet, ambiguous smile, created with a blending technique that makes edges dissolve into each other, suddenly drew attention from millions. Fame sometimes arrives not only because something is excellent, but because the story around it makes people notice. The Mona Lisa teaches us that context matters. Art and ideas sometimes become icons through narrative as much as through content. How we sleep and dream. Sleep is not a single state but a cycle, with each night taking us through several stages, from light sleep to deep sleep. And finally, the stage where dreaming is most common. Dreams remain one of the more mysterious aspects of sleep. Researchers debate their purpose, suggesting they may help process emotions, consolidate memories, simulate responses to potential dangers, or simply reflect random brain activity. Despite this uncertainty, the patterns of sleep are closely linked to how well our brains and bodies function. Quality sleep affects memory, attention, mood, and even creativity. When sleep is disrupted or insufficient, the ability to focus, solve problems, and regulate emotions can decline quickly. Over time, chronic poor sleep can affect overall health, increasing the risk of metabolic, cardiovascular, and mental health issues. Small, consistent habits often make a bigger difference than drastic interventions. Maintaining a regular sleep schedule helps the body's internal clock stay aligned, while dimming lights in the evening and reducing exposure to screens signals that it's time to wind down. Avoiding caffeine or other stimulants late in the day supports the natural buildup of sleep pressure. Other adjustments, keeping the bedroom cool, dark, and quiet, or using relaxation techniques before bed, can also help the body transition more smoothly into restorative sleep. Paying attention to these daily routines gradually strengthens sleep quality, supporting better focus, emotional balance, and overall well-being. The start of the Second World War. Tension after the First World War, severe economic struggles, and the rise of extremist political movements combined to create a volatile environment in the 1930s. Germany, under Adolf Hitler, pursued aggressive expansionist policies, and when it invaded Poland in 1939, the conflict quickly escalated. Other nations were drawn in through alliances and mutual defense agreements, and the Second World War began. The war lasted until 1945 and involved countries on every continent, making it one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Cities were destroyed by bombing campaigns, millions of civilians were killed, and genocides, including the Holocaust, left lasting scars. The conflict also saw the first use of atomic weapons, changing the nature of warfare forever. The war demonstrated how political ambition, fear, and miscalculation can quickly spiral into global catastrophe. In its wake, nations faced the enormous task of rebuilding economies, societies, and international relations. Efforts to prevent future conflicts included the creation of new institutions, most notably the United Nations, designed to foster dialogue, negotiation, and cooperation between countries. The war reshaped national borders, influenced political systems, and left populations grappling with the economic, social, and psychological consequences of years of widespread destruction. The scale of the war also set the stage for shifts in global power, as emerging nations and alliances began to redefine international relations in the decades that followed. Simple economics: supply, demand, and perception. Price is not determined solely by scarcity or the cost of production. It is also shaped by perception, expectations, and social networks. A limited edition item, for example, gains value not just because it is rare, but because people expect others to value it as well. The anticipation that a product will be desirable can drive demand and raise prices, even when the item's practical utility is limited. In this sense, economies are not only systems for exchanging physical goods, but also social systems, built on shared beliefs, trust, and expectations. Everyday purchases often function as social signals. Clothing, gadgets, or collectibles can indicate status, taste, or membership in a group. The way people perceive value influences what they are willing to pay, and businesses often leverage this by creating scarcity or highlighting exclusivity. For instance, a new smartphone model can sell out quickly not just because of its features, but because buyers anticipate that others will want it too. Perception also interacts with information networks. Online reviews, celebrity endorsements, and social media trends can quickly shift demand, showing that economic behavior is influenced as much by belief and communication as by physical supply. Recognizing this can help explain consumer behavior that might seem irrational at first glance. The Great Pyramids of Egypt. Built more than 4,000 years ago, the pyramids remain some of the most recognizable structures on Earth. The largest, the Great Pyramid of Giza, originally stood around 140 meters tall, roughly the height of a 40-story building. Its scale is impressive, even by modern standards, and it remained the tallest man-made structure in the world for thousands of years. Constructing the pyramids required moving and precisely placing massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons. The methods used continue to spark debate among historians and engineers. Evidence suggests that thousands of workers were involved, including skilled craftsmen, laborers, and support teams. Construction demanded strict planning, careful organization, and decades of sustained effort. The logistics of quarrying, transporting, and assembling millions of stones demonstrate a level of coordination and resource management that is remarkable for any era. The pyramids were built as tombs for pharaohs, designed to secure their passage into the afterlife. Their alignment with certain stars and the sun shows that ancient Egyptians combined practical engineering with symbolic and religious significance. Hieroglyphics, burial chambers, and complex internal passages reflect the importance placed on rituals, beliefs, and the journey beyond life. Over time, the pyramids have endured natural erosion, earthquakes, and human interference. Yet, they still stand as a testament to ancient skill and ambition. Their scale, precision, and durability provide insight into the social and political structures of ancient Egypt, as well as the technical knowledge that made such feats possible. In studying these monuments, researchers gain clues about the workforce, materials, and techniques used, from ramps and levers to coordinated labor efforts, revealing the extraordinary combination of human ingenuity, organization, and determination that created them. The Library of Alexandria. In ancient Egypt around the 3rd century before Christ, one of the most remarkable centers of knowledge ever assembled stood on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, the Library of Alexandria. Its mission was both simple and ambitious, to collect every written work in existence, creating a repository of the world's knowledge. Scholars from Greece, Egypt, Persia, and India traveled to Alexandria to study subjects ranging from astronomy and mathematics to medicine and philosophy. The library became a meeting place for ideas, a hub where knowledge from different cultures and disciplines could intersect. The scale and ambition of the library were extraordinary. It is believed that hundreds of thousands of scrolls and texts were stored, covering not only scientific and literary works, but also historical records, maps, and documents from distant lands. The librarians actively sought texts from other regions, copying and translating works to expand the collection. This made the library a unique resource, unmatched in the ancient world. Over the centuries, the library suffered a series of setbacks, including fires, wars, and political turmoil. These events gradually led to its disappearance, and the loss of its collections is often cited as one of history's greatest cultural tragedies. Despite this, the library's influence persists. Its legacy is the idea that knowledge from multiple cultures should be gathered, preserved, and made accessible to scholars and the public. Modern universities, research institutions, and digital archives continue to carry forward this vision, striving to compile and share information across disciplines and borders, echoing the ambition and curiosity that defined the Library of Alexandria. Time for our first knowledge nugget. When major review sites gathered critics and viewers' scores to find the highest rated TV series of all time, 3 stood above the rest. In third place came Breaking Bad, an all-time classic about the story of a high school chemistry teacher who turns to making drugs, exploring how ordinary choices can spiral into moral collapse. Second was The Wire, a detailed look at life in Baltimore, showing how institutions like the police, schools, and politics intertwine with the people they affect. And at number 1, The Sopranos, the groundbreaking crime series that redefined television, following mob boss Tony Soprano as he tries to balance his criminal life with family and therapy. If you're looking for the most acclaimed series ever made, these 3 are often considered the gold standard. The origin of coffee. According to legend, coffee was first discovered in Ethiopia when a goat herder noticed that his goats became unusually energetic after eating red berries from a particular tree. Curious about the effect, he brought the berries to a nearby monastery, where monks experimented with them to stay awake during long prayer sessions. The stimulating effects of the berries soon became valued, and knowledge of coffee spread beyond Ethiopia. From there, coffee made its way to Yemen, where it was cultivated and traded across the Arabian Peninsula. By the 16th century, coffee had reached the Middle East and North Africa, becoming an integral part of social and cultural life. Coffee houses emerged as spaces for discussion, business, and the exchange of ideas, often referred to as schools of conversation. Eventually, coffee traveled to Europe, where it inspired its own traditions and quickly became a popular beverage. Today, billions of cups are consumed worldwide every day, making coffee one of the most widely enjoyed drinks and a central part of daily routines across cultures. The Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is among the largest construction projects ever undertaken in human history. Its earliest sections were built over 2,000 years ago, during the late 7th century BCE, by various Chinese states to defend against invasions from northern nomadic groups. Over time, these separate walls were connected and extended, creating a massive system of fortifications stretching more than 20,000 kilometers, though not as a single continuous barrier. Much of the structure visible today was built during the Ming Dynasty, between the 14th and 17th centuries, using bricks, stone, and tamped earth. The wall was not only a physical defense, but also a tool for communication. Watchtowers and signal posts allowed soldiers to send messages quickly across vast distances, using smoke by day and fire by night. The Great Wall's construction required immense manpower, including soldiers, peasants, and prisoners, and it took centuries of labor to complete. Beyond its military purpose, it served as a symbol of Chinese organization, engineering skill, and the ability to mobilize large populations for a common goal. Over time, it also influenced trade, migration, and cultural exchange along its route, leaving a lasting mark on Chinese history and the surrounding regions. The discovery of America. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, an Italian navigator sailing under the Spanish flag, embarked on a journey to find a westward route to Asia. His goal was to reach the riches of the Indies more directly, hoping to establish trade in spices, silk, and other valuable goods. After months at sea, Columbus and his crew unexpectedly landed in the Caribbean, on islands that were already inhabited by indigenous peoples. While he believed he had reached islands near Asia, he had actually arrived in a completely new continent unknown to Europeans. Columbus made 4 voyages across the Atlantic between 1492 and 1504, exploring various islands in the Caribbean and parts of Central and South America. These expeditions marked the beginning of sustained contact between Europe and America. Although he did not reach Asia as planned, Columbus's voyages opened the way for European exploration trade, and eventual colonization, profoundly altering the history of the Western Hemisphere. It's important to recognize that long before Columbus arrived, millions of indigenous people lived across America, with diverse cultures, languages, and societies. They had developed complex agriculture, trade networks, and settlements for thousands of years. European arrival brought dramatic changes, including the spread of new diseases, displacement, and cultural disruption, which had lasting and often devastating effects. Columbus's journeys remain historically significant because they initiated a period of global exploration and exchange, known as the Columbian Era. His voyages reshaped trade routes, introduced new plants and animals between continents, and set the stage for centuries of interaction between Europe and America, with profound social, cultural, and economic consequences that continue to shape the modern world. The human skeleton. The human skeleton is a remarkable framework that provides structure, support, and protection for the body's vital organs. In adults, it is made up of 206 bones, ranging from the tiny bones in the middle ear to the large femur in the thigh. These bones are connected by joints and supported by ligaments, which hold them together, and tendons, which attach muscles to bones, allowing movement. Bones are more than just structural elements. They act as reservoirs for minerals, especially calcium and phosphorus, which can be released into the bloodstream when needed. Inside many bones is bone marrow, a soft tissue that produces red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, playing a crucial role in the body's immune system and oxygen transport. The skeleton works in close cooperation with muscles to create movement. Muscles pull on bones like levers, enabling everything from walking and running to delicate hand movements. The spine is a flexible column that supports posture and absorbs shocks, while the ribcage protects the heart and lungs. Interestingly, bones are living tissues that constantly remodel themselves. They respond to stress, grow stronger with exercise, and can even heal after fractures. Babies are born with about 270 bones, many of which fuse as they grow. Some bones, like the stapes in the ear, are smaller than a centimeter, while others, like the femur, can exceed 45 centimeters. The human skeleton is not only a support system, but also a dynamic, living structure, essential for survival, movement, and overall health, reflecting a complex interplay of biology and mechanics that has fascinated scientists for centuries. The history of tea. Tea has a long and fascinating history, originating in China over 4,000 years ago. According to legend, Emperor Shen Nong discovered the drink when tea leaves accidentally fell into a pot of boiling water, creating a fragrant and flavorful infusion. Early on, tea was appreciated not only for its taste, but also for its medicinal properties, believed to aid digestion, increase alertness, and promote overall health. Over the centuries, it became an integral part of Chinese culture, woven into daily life, religious practices, and social rituals. From China, tea gradually spread to other parts of Asia. In Japan, it became central to the development of the tea ceremony, a carefully ritualized practice emphasizing mindfulness, aesthetics, and harmony. In India, tea cultivation expanded under British influence during the 19th century, particularly in regions like Assam and Darjeeling, producing black teas that gained global popularity. Different regions developed distinctive varieties, including green, black, oolong, and white teas, each with unique flavors, processing methods, and traditions for brewing. Tea's cultural and economic significance also expanded beyond Asia. By the 16th and 17th centuries, European traders began importing tea, making it a highly prized commodity. Tea influenced trade routes, social gatherings, and even politics, most famously in the Boston Tea Party of 1773, which protested taxation in colonial America. Over time, tea houses, salons, and cafes became centers for conversation, networking, and intellectual exchange, cementing tea's role as a social beverage. Today, tea is consumed by billions worldwide and continues to reflect local traditions and global connections. Its history shows how a simple leaf can shape culture, trade, and daily life, from ancient Chinese gardens to modern tea shops across every continent, illustrating both continuity and change over thousands of years. The value of small habits. Large changes in life often begin with small, repeated actions. Reading a few pages every day may not seem significant at first, but over months and years, it can build a deep foundation of knowledge. Similarly, sending a quick message to a friend, taking a short walk, or maintaining a consistent sleep schedule may appear minor in isolation. Yet these small acts accumulate, shaping routines, well-being, and relationships in meaningful ways. Habits create structure and rhythm, providing a steady framework that supports larger goals. The impact of small habits becomes clearer when considered over time. A daily practice, even if it seems inconsequential, compounds. Writers, musicians, and athletes often emphasize that consistent effort, rather than occasional bursts of work, drives improvement. The same principle applies to personal relationships. Checking in with someone regularly strengthens connections more than occasional grand gestures. Small choices also influence mental and physical health. Consistently choosing nutritious meals, short periods of exercise, or mindful breathing may not produce immediate dramatic results, but over months they can enhance energy, mood, and resilience. Small habits are also adaptable. They can be adjusted, repeated, or combined to support new goals, making them versatile tools for growth. By focusing on manageable actions rather than overwhelming objectives, it becomes easier to maintain motivation and avoid burnout. Each action reinforces the next, creating momentum that carries forward, often without conscious effort. In practice, success and meaningful change rarely come from a single decisive moment. They emerge from the ongoing repetition of small choices, gradually shaping behavior, skills, and circumstances. Whether it is learning, health, work, or relationships, the cumulative effect of consistent, deliberate actions forms the foundation upon which larger achievements are built, demonstrating how even modest, everyday decisions play a crucial role in long-term outcomes. It is a super interesting and useful topic we can benefit from. If you want to learn more about habits, I warmly recommend the episode number 53 of the Andrew Huberman Lab podcast, called The Science of Making and Breaking Habits. It's truly incredible. The Silk Road. Imagine a route stretching thousands upon thousands of kilometers, a vast winding network of paths that connected east and west long before the invention of airplanes and trains. This legendary system of trade and cultural exchange was known as the Silk Road. It was not a single road, but rather a web of overland and maritime routes that linked China, India, Persia, Arabia, and Europe in one of the most remarkable achievements of the ancient world. The Silk Road story began more than 2,000 years ago, during the Han Dynasty of China around the 2nd century BCE. As Chinese silk became one of the most desired materials in the West, caravans of merchants began to travel across harsh deserts, towering mountain ranges, and vast steppes to trade it for gold, glassware, horses, and precious stones. Silk was light, beautiful, and valuable, ideal for long-distance trade. But what moved along the Silk Road went far beyond material goods. It carried ideas, beliefs, and technologies that would forever transform the civilizations it touched. From India, Buddhism traveled eastward into China, Korea, and Japan, spreading spiritual and philosophical traditions that reshaped entire societies. From China came papermaking, gunpowder, and the magnetic compass, innovations that would eventually revolutionize the Western world. From the Middle East came advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine, while art, architecture, and music evolved through centuries of cultural fusion. Along the way, great cities like Bukhara, Kashgar, and Constantinople flourished as vibrant crossroads of culture. Traders, scholars, and travelers met in bustling markets filled with spices, textiles, and stories from distant lands. Empires rose and fell around this network, each leaving traces of their culture and influence behind. Yet, the Silk Road was also a path of peril. Travelers braved scorching deserts, climbed the passes of the Pamir Mountains, and risked attacks from bandits or hostile forces. But despite these dangers, the rewards, both material and intellectual, were immense. Even after maritime trade routes began to dominate global commerce in the 15th century, the Silk Road's legacy endured. It had already woven a deep cultural and historical bond between continents, a bond that helped shape the world as we know it. Today, the Silk Road is a symbol of human connection, curiosity, and cooperation. It reminds us that progress and discovery often come from exchange, from the willingness of people to share, learn, and connect across distances both physical and cultural. The Silk Road was, in essence, the first great bridge between civilizations. The origins of money. Long before coins or paper bills existed, ancient communities relied on barter, the direct exchange of goods and services. A farmer might trade grain for a pot, or a shepherd might exchange wool for tools. While this system worked on a small scale, it became increasingly cumbersome as trade networks expanded. Valuing one good against another was often complicated, and carrying bulky or perishable items for trade could be inefficient. Disputes over perceived value and the difficulty of storing wealth made barter less practical as societies grew larger and more interconnected. Around 3000 BCE in Mesopotamia, people began developing solutions. Metal tokens and standardized weights were used to represent value, simplifying exchanges and allowing merchants to trade more efficiently. These early forms of money enabled markets to grow, fostered specialization, and allowed communities to store and transfer wealth reliably. Trade could now occur over longer distances, connecting cities and regions in ways that barter could not. The first true coins appeared in Lydia, in present-day Turkey, around the 7th century BCE. These coins were stamped with official marks or royal seals, guaranteeing their weight and value. Coins spread quickly throughout the Mediterranean, influencing Greek, Persian, and Roman economies. They were portable, durable, divisible, and consistent, making transactions more precise and reducing disputes. Paper money emerged in China around the 7th century CE, allowing merchants and governments to move large sums without cumbersome metal coins. Later, credit systems, checks, and eventually digital money transformed the concept further, making financial transactions faster, more secure, and increasingly global. The evolution of money, from barter to metal coins, paper bills, and digital systems, allowed the growth of trade networks, financing of states and empires, and integration of distant regions into larger economic structures. It shaped the development of cities, the rise of markets, and the spread of ideas, creating the foundations for the global economy as we know it today. The story of alchemy. Alchemy began in ancient Egypt and spread through the Hellenistic world, blending early chemistry, philosophy, and mysticism. Practitioners pursued the transformation of base metals into gold and sought a universal elixir thought to grant longevity, combining practical experimentation with spiritual and symbolic aims. While these ultimate goals remained unattainable, the work of alchemists led to significant advancements in laboratory methods and chemical understanding. Techniques such as distillation, sublimation, calcination, and crystallization were developed and refined over centuries, forming the foundation for systematic study in chemistry. Alchemists carefully recorded their observations, experimenting with minerals, metals, and natural compounds. In the Islamic Golden Age, figures like Jabir ibn Hayyan expanded these methods, emphasizing empirical observation and reproducibility. Later, European alchemists such as Paracelsus integrated chemical study with medicine, exploring the preparation of compounds and remedies. Alchemy was as much a philosophical and spiritual pursuit as a scientific one, linking the transformation of matter with ideas of personal and cosmic perfection. Its legacy is evident in the development of modern chemistry, laboratory practices, and experimental methodology. Although the mystical goals were never realized, the pursuit of alchemy created a bridge between mythic imagination and systematic inquiry, demonstrating how curiosity, careful observation, and experimentation can gradually reshape human understanding of the material world. This blend of practical technique and symbolic meaning allowed alchemy to endure for centuries, influencing not only science but also medicine, metallurgy, and intellectual thought across cultures, leaving a lasting imprint on the history of human knowledge. The first human in space. On April 12, 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first human to orbit the Earth, marking a historic milestone in the exploration of space. Launched aboard the Vostok 1 spacecraft, Gagarin's mission lasted 108 minutes and reached an altitude of approximately 327 kilometers. During the flight, he experienced weightlessness for the first time, witnessing the curvature of the planet and the vast expanse of space from orbit. The spacecraft completed a single orbit before Gagarin re-entered the atmosphere and safely parachuted to the ground after ejecting from the capsule at high altitude. The mission represented the culmination of years of research, experimentation, and meticulous planning by the Soviet space program. Engineers and scientists faced immense technical challenges, from creating life support systems capable of sustaining a human in the harsh conditions of space to calculating precise re-entry trajectories that would allow for a safe landing. Gagarin himself underwent intensive physical and psychological training to prepare for the mission, including exposure to high G-forces, confinement in a small capsule, intrascatter way, and emergency procedures for potential failures. Vostok 1 not only proved that humans could survive and function in space, but also demonstrated the technological capabilities of the Soviet Union, intensifying the space race between the USSR and the United States. The flight inspired subsequent missions, leading to longer orbital stays, spacewalks, and the development of space stations. Gagarin's journey became an emblem of human courage and ingenuity, highlighting the possibilities of venturing beyond Earth and laying the groundwork for future space exploration, international collaboration, and a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. The mission also captured the imagination of millions around the world, showing that spaceflight was no longer confined to science fiction. Gagarin's smile, broadcast globally, symbolized a new era where human curiosity and determination could push the boundaries of the possible, encouraging generations of scientists, engineers, and explorers to continue reaching for the stars. The history of tea ceremonies. Tea drinking began in China over 2,000 years ago, initially as a medicinal brew valued for its perceived healing properties. Early texts describe the use of tea to aid digestion, improve alertness, and promote overall health. Over time, tea evolved from a functional drink into a refined cultural practice, particularly during the Tang and Song dynasties. Scholars, poets, and monks developed rituals around its preparation, emphasizing aesthetics, mindfulness, and the appreciation of subtle flavors. In these circles, tea was more than a beverage. It became a medium for contemplation, conversation, and social refinement. When tea culture spread to Japan in the late medieval period, it transformed under the influence of Zen Buddhism into the Chanoyu, or Japanese tea ceremony. Masters such as Sen no Rikyu codified its principles of harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. Every detail, the choice of utensils, the arrangement of flowers, the heating and pouring of water, was carefully considered to create a unified experience. The ceremony blended philosophy, architecture, and art into a single act, turning tea preparation into a form of meditation. Tea culture also shaped literature, painting, and garden design. The spaces for tea gatherings often incorporated natural elements, subtle decoration, and intentional simplicity to encourage focus and serenity. Guests were guided to move slowly, observe attentively, and interact with consideration and grace. These practices reinforced mindfulness and social etiquette, creating a ritual that honored both the present moment and human connection. Over centuries, these traditions influenced daily life beyond formal ceremonies. Tea became a symbol of hospitality, contemplation, and aesthetic sensitivity. The ritual's emphasis on simplicity, awareness, and balance continues to resonate today, inspiring cultural practices, culinary appreciation, and even interior design, showing how a simple beverage could shape the rhythm and philosophy of entire societies. The story of Stonehenge. Stonehenge, located on the Salisbury Plain in England, is one of the most famous prehistoric monuments in the world. Its construction began over 4,000 years ago, during the late Neolithic period, and continued in several stages over centuries. The monument consists of massive stones arranged in circular and horseshoe patterns, some weighing up to 40 tons. Many of these stones were transported from distances of up to 250 kilometers, requiring ingenious methods of moving, lifting, and positioning them with the technology available at the time. The layout of Stonehenge demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Its alignment with the summer and winter solstices indicates that prehistoric builders tracked the movements of the sun and moon. Observing these celestial events may have helped guide agricultural cycles or played a role in ceremonial practices. The monument likely served multiple purposes, combining religious, social, and astronomical functions. Archaeologists have uncovered burial mounds, tools, and animal bones near the site, suggesting that Stonehenge was a place of ritual and community gathering. Excavations reveal evidence of feasting, trade, and the movement of people from distant regions, indicating that it attracted groups from across the British Isles. The organization required to construct Stonehenge, from quarrying stones to planning their precise placement, speaks to the complex social structures of Neolithic communities. The stones themselves are divided into two main types, the larger sarsen stones and the smaller bluestones, each chosen for particular qualities. How these stones were transported, especially the bluestones from the Preseli Hills in Wales, remains a topic of research and debate. Experiments suggest that a combination of sledges, rollers, and possibly waterways may have been used. Stonehenge has inspired generations of study, interpretation, and imagination. Its design, construction, and purpose reflect prehistoric engineering skills, spiritual practices, and an enduring human fascination with the cosmos. The monument continues to draw archaeologists, astronomers, and visitors seeking to understand the people who shaped the landscape and left a lasting legacy of curiosity, planning, and craftsmanship. The origins of yoga. Yoga has its roots in ancient India, dating back over 5,000 years. It began as a holistic practice that combined physical postures, breathing techniques, and meditation, aiming to unify body, mind, and spirit. Early texts such as the Vedas and later the Upanishads describe yoga as a path to spiritual enlightenment, self-discipline, and inner balance. It was more than exercise. It was a system for understanding life, cultivating mental clarity, and achieving harmony within oneself. Over centuries, yoga evolved into various schools and styles. Classical approaches emphasized meditation and ethical principles, while Hatha Yoga introduced more physical postures, laying the foundation for what many today recognize as modern yoga. Techniques such as pranayama, breath control, asanas, postures, and dhyana meditation were refined, each supporting physical health, mental focus, and spiritual growth. In the 20th century, yoga traveled beyond India, gaining popularity worldwide. Teachers adapted practices to suit modern lifestyles, emphasizing fitness, stress relief, and mindfulness while maintaining core philosophical elements. Yoga studios, online classes, and workshops now allow millions globally to engage in the practice, whether for flexibility, relaxation, or personal development. The influence of yoga extends beyond exercise. It has shaped approaches to wellness, therapy, and mental health, bridging science and tradition. Its cultural impact can be seen in art, philosophy, and daily rituals, inspiring people to explore balance, self-awareness, and connection. Across continents, yoga demonstrates how an ancient practice can adapt and thrive, offering tools for physical, mental, and spiritual well-being while linking contemporary life with centuries-old tradition. Here is another knowledge nugget. You earned it. Rating music can be difficult. There's no single standard to decide what makes an album the best. Still, when considering the context of its time, sales numbers, and cultural influence, certain albums stand out. In third place is What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, released in 1971, a socially conscious soul album that addressed issues like war, poverty, and environmental concerns. Second is Thriller by Michael Jackson from 1982, which became the best-selling album ever, filled with groundbreaking production, iconic music videos, and worldwide appeal. And number one is The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, released in 1973. A progressive rock masterpiece known for its conceptual depth, innovative sound, and enduring influence on generations of musicians. An honorable mention goes to Un Verano Sinti by Bad Bunny. As of late 2024, it is one of the most streamed albums on Spotify. While streaming numbers are impressive, it's worth remembering that back in the day, listeners had to purchase physical albums to enjoy them, making the achievements of albums like Thriller or Dark Side of the Moon all the more remarkable. Why time zones exist. Before the age of fast trains and telegraphs, every town kept its own time based on the sun. Noon was simply when the sun stood highest in the sky. This worked fine when life was local, but as railways and telegraphs connected cities, the differences in local times became a real problem. A train leaving one city might arrive in another before it had even left, according to the clocks. Confusion spread, and it became clear that the world needed a shared system. To solve this, countries agreed to divide the globe into time zones, each offset by 1 hour from a central reference point, the prime meridian in Greenwich, England. Over time, nearly every nation adopted this standard, making travel, trade, and communication far more reliable. It's a quiet but powerful example of how human cooperation can bring order to something as universal as time itself, turning the movement of the sun into a schedule the entire world can follow. A human story. Humble hustlers. Many people who change the world do so without drama. Some are practical inventors, like Nikola Tesla, whose work on alternating current quietly transformed electricity distribution worldwide. Others are careful thinkers, such as Marie Curie, who spent years meticulously studying radioactivity before her discoveries changed medicine and science. And some are artists, like Johannes Vermeer, who painted in relative obscurity, refining his technique one careful layer at a time, creating works that are now celebrated centuries later. The biographies worth hearing are often not the loudest ones. They show steady, gradual progress and countless small choices rather than sudden leaps. When you look at history this way, large achievements, like the development of the internet, the rise of modern medicine, or iconic works of art, become the sum of many small, deliberate steps. These stories offer perspective. Remarkable contributions can come from persistence, careful observation, and attention to detail, rather than from dramatic moments alone. The Human Genome Project. The Human Genome Project began in 1990 with a clear but enormous goal: to map every gene in human DNA. At the time, scientists understood that DNA carried the fundamental instructions for life, but no one had ever seen the complete sequence that defines a human being. The project required collaboration on an unprecedented scale, bringing together researchers from universities, laboratories, and institutions around the world. It became one of the first major examples of international cooperation in genetics, with teams working to develop the tools, technologies, and methods necessary to read the human genome. Each human cell contains roughly 3 billion base pairs of DNA, a sequence far too large to analyze with existing technology. Sequencing all of it required years of dedicated effort and the creation of entirely new methods for reading DNA accurately and efficiently. After 13 years of intensive research, the project was officially completed in 2003. The results were surprising in several ways. Humans have approximately 20,000 genes, far fewer than many scientists had initially predicted. Much of the genome does not code for proteins, yet these non-coding regions play crucial roles in regulating gene activity, influencing when and how genes are expressed. The completion of the Human Genome Project transformed biology and medicine. It laid the groundwork for personalized medicine, allowing treatments to be designed based on an individual's genetic profile. It also advanced understanding of genetic disorders, helping researchers identify the mutations responsible for many diseases. Beyond medicine, the project provided insights into human evolution, ancestry, and the ways genes interact to shape development and health. The scope and scale of the project highlighted both the complexity of life and the power of global scientific collaboration. The invention of democracy. It began more than 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece, particularly in the city of Athens. Citizens would gather in open assemblies to discuss laws and vote directly on issues. Only a small part of the population could participate. Women, slaves, and foreigners were excluded. But the concept itself was revolutionary: ordinary citizens sharing power. Over time, the idea evolved. The Roman Republic adopted representative elements. Centuries later, European philosophers expanded the concept, arguing that governments should depend on the consent of the governed. By the 18th century, democratic revolutions in America and France gave the idea global momentum. Modern democracies no longer gather entire populations in a single square. But the principle remains the same: power shared through participation. The long history of democracy reminds us that political rights, once rare, have become one of humanity's most important inventions. A brief natural fact: trees and communication. Recent ecological research has revealed that trees in many forests communicate and share resources through underground networks of fungi. These fungal connections, sometimes called the wood wide web, allow trees to exchange nutrients and chemical signals. For example, older or larger trees can supply younger saplings with essential nutrients, while trees under stress may release warning signals that nearby plants can detect. Although the details are still being studied, this network illustrates how ecosystems are built on complex interdependent relationships. Trees are not isolated organisms. Their survival and growth are influenced by cooperation and interaction with other plants and fungi. Understanding these underground connections changes how scientists view forests, showing that much of the life and communication in nature happens out of sight, beneath the soil, in a hidden but vital network that sustains entire ecosystems. The human brain. The human brain is the most intricate structure known to science, a network of staggering complexity contained within a skull no larger than a grapefruit. It is made up of roughly 86 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections, weaving an elaborate web of pathways that control everything from movement and memory to emotion, creativity, and problem solving. These networks communicate through tiny electrical impulses that can travel at speeds of up to 400 kilometers per hour, sending signals faster than a high-speed train. Despite weighing only about 1.4 kilograms, the brain consumes nearly 20% of the body's total energy, a testament to its constant activity. Its workings are both astonishing and mysterious. Thoughts emerge, memories form, and instincts guide behavior, often without conscious awareness. Dreams, intuition, and a sense of self arise from patterns of activity that scientists are still striving to fully understand. The deeper we study the brain, the more questions appear. How do billions of neurons create consciousness? Why do some patterns lead to insight while others remain fleeting? Even as neuroscience maps regions and pathways, the full story of how this extraordinary organ produces thought, imagination, and awareness remains elusive. Within its folds lie the secrets of who we are and how we experience the world, a puzzle that continues to captivate researchers and thinkers alike. The Titanic. The RMS Titanic was one of the most advanced and luxurious ships of its time, built by the White Star Line and launched in 1911. Measuring about 269 meters long and equipped with state-of-the-art technology, it was considered a marvel of modern engineering. Its maiden voyage began in April 1912, departing from Southampton, England, bound for New York City. Passengers included wealthy elites, immigrants seeking new opportunities, and crew members tasked with operating the massive vessel. Despite being widely advertised as unsinkable, the Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic on the night of April 14, 1912. The collision caused catastrophic damage to the ship's hull, and it sank within a few hours. The disaster claimed the lives of more than 1,500 passengers and crew, making it one of the deadliest maritime accidents in history. The tragedy revealed major shortcomings in maritime safety, including insufficient lifeboats and inadequate emergency procedures. In response, international regulations were strengthened, leading to the establishment of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, and improvements in ship design, navigation, and lifeboat requirements. The sinking of the Titanic remains a powerful historical lesson about the limits of technology and the importance of safety measures at sea. The origin of chess. Chess originated in India over 1,500 years ago, originally called Chaturanga. The game gradually spread to Persia, where it became known as shatranj, and then to the Islamic world, eventually reaching Europe. Along the way, the rules evolved, pieces changed shape, and strategies developed, shaping the modern game we recognize today. By the 19th century, standardized rules were widely adopted, and international tournaments began to formalize competitive play. Chess became a global pursuit, appreciated not only for its competitive challenges, but also for its depth of strategy and creative possibilities. Players must combine logic, foresight, and imagination, making each game a unique exercise in problem-solving. Today, chess continues to fascinate people of all ages and skill levels around the world. It is studied professionally, played casually, and explored online, bridging cultures and generations through a shared love of strategy and mental skill. The discovery of radio. In the late 19th century, inventors like Guglielmo Marconi developed the first wireless transmission of signals, using radio waves to carry sound through the air over long distances without the need for wires. This breakthrough transformed communication, making it possible to transmit information quickly across towns, countries, and eventually oceans. By the early 20th century, radio had become the dominant form of mass communication. Families would gather around their radios to listen to music, news, storytelling, and live events, creating shared experiences in homes across the world. Before the rise of television, radio played a central role in daily life, shaping culture, entertainment, and public awareness. Its invention marked a major step in connecting people and sharing information in ways that had never been possible before. The origin of writing. The first known writing systems appeared over 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, in what is now modern-day Iraq. These early forms of writing, called cuneiform, brizno, consisted of wedge-shaped symbols pressed into clay tablets using a stylus. Initially, the symbols were used for practical purposes, such as recording goods, trade transactions, and inventories, helping early cities manage resources and commerce efficiently. Over time, the use of writing expanded. Symbols began to represent sounds and ideas, allowing for more complex communication. Writing made it possible to create laws, preserve historical events, and share stories across generations. Religious texts, literature, and scientific observations could now be documented and transmitted beyond immediate memory or oral tradition. The invention of writing fundamentally transformed human societies. It enabled the development of organized governments, education systems, and legal codes, providing a stable framework for complex civilizations to grow. Writing also allowed cultures to record knowledge, ensuring that discoveries and traditions could be passed down and built upon. From ancient tablets to modern alphabets, this invention laid the foundation for the structured communication and record-keeping that continue to shape human life today. Here comes another small knowledge nugget. For years, there have been rumors about whether certain days of the week are cheaper for booking flights than others. A recent article from Forbes, which compared multiple studies, found that there isn't a single day that's consistently cheaper than others. Unfortunately. However, there is a day that tends to be the most expensive, and that is Friday. So if you want to avoid higher fares, keep that in mind. It's best not to book flights on Fridays. The discovery of gravity. According to popular accounts, Isaac Newton began developing his theory of gravity in the 17th century after observing an apple fall from a tree. While the story may be partly legendary, it reflects the moment Newton began asking deeper questions about the forces shaping the natural world. He wondered why objects always fall straight to the ground and whether the same force might extend far beyond Earth, influencing the moon, the planets, and even the motion of distant celestial bodies. This thinking eventually led him to the revolutionary idea that a single force governs motion both on Earth and in space. Newton's law of universal gravitation states that every object with mass attracts every other object with mass. The strength of this attraction depends on the sizes of the masses and the distance between them. This principle explained why apples fall, why planets orbit the sun, and why tides rise and fall, connecting terrestrial and celestial phenomena under a single, predictable rule. It also provided a framework for understanding the paths of comets and the behavior of objects in motion, making it possible to predict celestial events with remarkable accuracy. Beyond describing motion, Newton's work introduced a systematic way to calculate forces mathematically. Astronomers could chart planetary positions, engineers could account for gravitational effects in construction, and scientists gained tools to study natural laws precisely. His discoveries laid the foundation for classical physics and influenced generations of researchers. Gravity continues to be a central concept in modern science. Newton's insight demonstrated that careful observation, reasoning, and mathematical thinking could uncover universal patterns. By linking a simple falling apple to the movement of the moon and planets, he revealed that nature follows consistent laws, shaping centuries of scientific exploration and understanding in ways that still resonate today. The Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest stretches across much of northern South America, covering more than 5 million square kilometers and spanning 9 countries, including Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela. It is the largest tropical rainforest in the world, containing an extraordinary diversity of life. Millions of plant, animal, and insect species inhabit the forest, and scientists believe many remain undocumented. From towering trees and dense undergrowth to hidden streams and wetlands, the Amazon is a complex ecosystem that supports a vast array of life forms. The forest plays a crucial role in regulating the global climate. Its dense canopy and soil also store large amounts of carbon, helping to mitigate climate change. Rivers, including the Amazon itself, the second longest river in the world, carry enormous volumes of water through the forest. These waterways nourish the ecosystem, provide habitats for aquatic life, and supply water and food for human communities that have lived in the region for thousands of years. Despite its size and importance, the Amazon faces increasing threats from human activity. Deforestation for agriculture, logging, and infrastructure development has accelerated, leading to habitat destruction and biodiversity loss. Fires, whether accidental or deliberate, pose additional dangers and contribute to global carbon emissions. Climate change, combined with these pressures, is altering rainfall patterns and affecting the forest's delicate balance. Conservation initiatives are underway, including protected areas, sustainable forestry projects, and scientific research aimed at understanding and preserving the rainforest's resources. The Amazon remains vital for biodiversity, climate stability, and cultural heritage, underscoring the importance of continued efforts to protect this remarkable and irreplaceable ecosystem. The largest desert, the Sahara. The Sahara Desert is the largest hot desert in the world, stretching across much of North Africa and covering over 9 million square kilometers. Its vast size makes it roughly equivalent to the combined areas of the United States and China. Despite being commonly associated with endless sand dunes, the Sahara's landscape is diverse. It includes rocky plateaus, gravel plains, dry riverbeds, salt flats, and occasional oases where water supports plant and animal life. Temperatures in the Sahara are extreme. During the day, the sun can raise temperatures to over 50 degrees Celsius, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, In some regions, while nighttime temperatures can drop sharply, sometimes nearing freezing in the desert's higher elevations. These extremes make survival challenging for both humans and wildlife, requiring specialized adaptations. Plants in the Sahara often have deep root systems or water-storing structures to endure prolonged dry periods. Animals such as fennec foxes, camels, and various reptiles have evolved ways to conserve water and regulate their body temperature. Humans have also lived in the Sahara for thousands of years, with nomadic groups such as the Tuareg and Berbers developing ways to travel, find water, and cultivate food in certain areas. The Sahara is not only a natural wonder, but also a dynamic environment shaped by wind, erosion, and seasonal rainfall. Sandstorms and shifting dunes continually reshape the terrain, creating an ever-changing landscape. While often thought of as empty or barren, the Sahara supports complex ecosystems, human cultures, and geological features that have fascinated explorers and scientists for centuries, highlighting the resilience of life in extreme conditions. The Renaissance. The Renaissance was a profound cultural movement that began in Italy during the 14th century and gradually spread across Europe over the next 2 to 3 centuries. Its name, meaning rebirth, reflected a renewed interest in the art, literature, science, and philosophies of classical Greece and Rome. The movement emphasized humanism, a focus on human experience, potential, and individuality, influencing education, politics, religion, and the arts in ways that reshaped European society. Artists were at the forefront of the Renaissance, exploring anatomy, perspective, proportion, and emotion in their work. Figures such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Titian studied the human body, experimented with light and shadow, and developed techniques that created a sense of depth and realism unseen in earlier periods. Architecture also flourished, with innovators like Filippo Brunelleschi designing monumental structures, including the famous Dome of Florence Cathedral, combining technical mastery with classical aesthetics. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg around 1440 was a turning point, allowing ideas to spread more quickly and widely than ever before. Books, pamphlets, and scholarly works could reach a larger audience, promoting literacy, preserving knowledge, and facilitating communication between intellectual centers across Europe. Vernacular languages flourished alongside Latin, making literature, philosophy, and scientific works accessible to more people than ever. Scientific and philosophical inquiry advanced significantly during this time. Figures such as Nicolaus Copernicus, Galileo Galilei, and Johannes Kepler began to challenge traditional views of the universe, while thinkers like Machiavelli and Erasmus explored ethics, politics, and human behavior. Mathematics, medicine, engineering, and anatomy all saw remarkable progress, reflecting the Renaissance ideal of integrating art, science, and human thought. Beyond Italy, the Renaissance influenced France, England, the Low Countries, and other parts of Europe, shaping literature, art, politics, and education for generations. Its legacy is seen in modern science, art, architecture, and philosophy, demonstrating how curiosity, observation, and creativity can transform society. By blending classical knowledge with innovation, the Renaissance set the stage for the modern era, highlighting the enduring power of human imagination and intellect. The Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower in Paris is one of the most recognizable structures in the world. It was built for the 1889 Exposition Universelle, a World's Fair celebrating the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. Designed by engineer Gustave Eiffel, the tower stood at 300 meters tall, making it the tallest man-made structure of its time. Its iron lattice design was both innovative and controversial, with some critics initially calling it an eyesore. Construction began in 1887 and took just over 2 years to complete, involving around 300 workers. The precision of the assembly, with over 18,000 iron pieces joined by 2.5 million rivets, demonstrated remarkable engineering skill. Despite early skepticism, the Eiffel Tower quickly became a symbol of modernity and industrial achievement. Over the years, it has served multiple purposes, from observation and tourism to scientific experiments in radio transmission and meteorology. Today, millions of visitors climb or ride elevators to view Paris from its platforms, enjoying panoramic vistas of the city. The Eiffel Tower has inspired countless artists, filmmakers, and architects, and remains a lasting icon of Parisian culture and creativity. The history of maps. Maps have guided human civilization for thousands of years, serving as tools of exploration, trade, and survival. The earliest known maps, dating back to around 2300 BCE in Mesopotamia, were etched onto clay tablets to mark rivers, mountains, and nearby settlements. Ancient Egyptians later used papyrus scrolls, while medieval European and Islamic cartographers drew intricate parchment maps, blending geography with mythology and religion. As global exploration began in the 15th and 16th centuries, maps evolved from artistic representations into scientific instruments. The introduction of latitude and longitude revolutionized navigation, allowing sailors to cross oceans with greater precision. The works of explorers like Ptolemy, Mercator, and Cook shaped our understanding of the world's continents and seas. In the modern era, maps have undergone another transformation. Satellite imagery and digital mapping technologies like GPS provide real-time information, guiding everything from global shipping routes to everyday travel on smartphones. Yet, despite their high-tech evolution, maps still serve the same fundamental purpose they did thousands of years ago, helping humanity make sense of the world and find its place within it. The origin of bridges. Humans have been building bridges for thousands of years, creating structures to cross rivers, valleys, and other obstacles. The earliest bridges were simple: fallen logs, stone slabs, or basic timber frameworks that allowed people and animals to move safely over streams. These primitive constructions were practical and functional, reflecting the immediate needs of early communities. The Romans transformed bridge building by introducing arches made from cut stone and concrete. These bridges were not only strong and durable, but also became an integral part of the Roman road network, allowing armies, traders, and travelers to move efficiently across vast territories. Their designs combined utility with engineering precision, many of which survived for centuries. During the Middle Ages, wooden drawbridges and masonry spans connected towns, fortifications, and castles, adapting bridge technology to the social and military needs of the time. These bridges often included defensive features and were central to urban planning. The Industrial Revolution brought iron and steel into construction, making possible longer spans, greater flexibility, and innovative designs such as truss, cantilever, and suspension bridges. Engineers could now create structures that stretched across rivers and bays previously thought impossible to cross. Modern bridges, such as the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge in Japan, reflect the culmination of centuries of innovation. They combine aesthetics, advanced materials, and engineering knowledge to span incredible distances while carrying thousands of vehicles daily. Bridges remain both functional necessities and symbols of human ingenuity, connecting communities and shaping landscapes worldwide. The story of Atlantis. The legend of Atlantis originates from the works of the Greek philosopher Plato, who described it around 360 BCE in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. In these texts, Plato presents Atlantis as a powerful and highly advanced island civilization located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which marked the boundary of the known world in his time. According to Plato, the Atlanteans possessed remarkable engineering skills, monumental architecture, and vast resources. They built sophisticated harbors, canals, and temples, and their society was governed by a structured political system. The island's wealth and technological achievements made it a formidable power that eventually sought to expand its influence beyond its own territory. Plato's account emphasizes the moral dimension of the story. The Atlanteans became increasingly arrogant, greedy, and corrupt, turning away from virtue and the ethical principles that had once guided them. As a result, according to the legend, the gods punished Atlantis, and the entire civilization was submerged in a single catastrophic flood, disappearing beneath the ocean. This dramatic narrative served as a cautionary tale about hubris, societal decay, and the consequences of abandoning moral and civic responsibility. For centuries, scholars and enthusiasts have debated the nature of Plato's story. Some argue that it reflects a historical memory of real events, such as the eruption of the Thera volcano, which devastated the Minoan civilization in the Aegean Sea. Others interpret it as allegory, a fictional device to explore philosophical ideas about governance, ethics, and human behavior. Over time, the tale of Atlantis captured the imagination of writers, explorers, and pseudo-historians alike. Many have speculated about its location, linking it to regions across the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, and even the Caribbean. Despite a lack of concrete evidence, the story's enduring appeal lies in its mixture of mystery, adventure, and the idea of a lost civilization that might once have existed beyond the boundaries of our knowledge. Plato's Atlantis continues to inspire literature, films, and research, inviting each generation to wonder about the line between myth and history, and the possibility of civilizations lost to time. Nugget number 4. Major movie critics once analyzed hundreds of thousands of reviews to find the highest-rated films of all time. In third place came The Shawshank Redemption, starring Morgan Freeman, a powerful story about hope and resilience inside a prison. Second was Schindler's List with Liam Neeson and Ralph Fiennes, telling the true story of a man who saved more than 1,000 lives during the Holocaust. And first place went to The Godfather, the classic mafia film with Al Pacino and Marlon Brando that defined an entire genre. If you're looking for something timeless to watch, one of these three is a very good place to start. The origins of spices. The story of spices stretches back thousands of years and touches nearly every corner of the ancient world. Cinnamon, pepper, nutmeg, cloves, and other aromatics were highly valued not only for their ability to enhance food, but also for medicinal, ceremonial, and religious purposes. Traders in India, Arabia, and the Mediterranean created intricate networks that carried these goods across vast distances, often overland through deserts and mountains or via long, perilous sea routes. In the Middle Ages, spices became luxury commodities in Europe, prized for their rarity and high cost, often worth more than their weight in gold. The desire for direct access to these precious products drove European exploration and the Age of Discovery. Navigators such as Vasco da Gama and Ferdinand Magellan sought new maritime routes to the East Indies and other spice-producing regions, reshaping world maps and maritime knowledge. The quest for spices fueled the rise of maritime empires, from Portugal to the Netherlands, and encouraged colonial expansion as nations competed to control production, trade, and ports. Spices also played a role in cultural exchange. They brought new flavors, techniques, and ingredients to distant kitchens, influencing diets, culinary traditions, and even social customs. Each shipment of spices represented not just commerce, but a story of adventure, negotiation, and risk. From the bustling markets of Venice to remote islands in the Maluku archipelago, spices connected civilizations, creating a web of economic and cultural links that spanned continents. Over centuries, the trade in spices helped shape the modern world, leaving a lasting impact on global cuisine, navigation, and the movement of ideas. The history of clocks. Humans have measured time since antiquity, using simple tools like sundials, water clocks, and hourglasses. Sundials, which date back thousands of years, tracked the sun's movement to divide the day into hours, while water clocks measured time by the steady flow of liquid. Hourglasses offered a portable way to gauge intervals, used for everything from cooking to maritime navigation. These early methods were limited by weather, season, and location, but they laid the foundation for humanity's need to organize daily life. By the 13th century, European craftsmen developed mechanical tower clocks driven by weights and gears. These large public clocks regulated monastic prayers, town events, and market schedules, becoming symbols of civic pride and technological skill. Townspeople relied on the ringing bells to mark hours and coordinate activities, making time a shared experience rather than an individual measure. In 1656, Christian Huygens invented the pendulum clock, dramatically improving accuracy. Pendulums regulated movement with far greater consistency, enabling precise timekeeping essential for navigation, astronomy, and scientific experimentation. The 18th and 19th centuries saw further refinement with portable pocket watches and marine chronometers, helping explorers chart oceans and travelers plan journeys with unprecedented reliability. The 20th century brought quartz and atomic clocks, whose precision measures time in fractions of a second. These innovations allowed societies to synchronize trains, broadcast schedules, and later global communications, transforming time from a local, natural rhythm into a standardized mechanical force. From ancient shadows to atomic vibrations, clocks have evolved alongside human civilization. They have shaped industry, transport, science, and daily life, creating a framework in which societies operate with coordination and predictability, and turning the abstract concept of time into a measurable and universally shared element of human experience. The story of the Panama Canal. The idea of connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through Central America dates back to the early 16th century, when explorers and merchants sought faster trade routes to Asia. For centuries, the dense jungles, rugged mountains, made the project seem impossible. The first serious attempt came in the 1880s, when the French, led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the engineer behind the Suez Canal, tried to build a canal. Their effort was plagued by enormous obstacles. Tropical rainfall, landslides, and deadly outbreaks of malaria and yellow fever devastated the workforce. Thousands of workers died, and after several years of costly failures, the French effort collapsed. In 1904, the United States took over the project, bringing new engineering methods, massive machinery, and large-scale public health measures. Efforts to control mosquitoes and improve sanitation dramatically reduced disease, allowing workers to focus on construction. Engineers designed a system of locks to raise and lower ships over the continental divide, a solution that addressed the region's challenge in terrain. Tens of thousands of workers labored to carve a 77-kilometer waterway through jungle, swamps, and mountains, while dams and artificial lakes were built to control water flow and ensure safe passage. The canal officially opened in 1914, transforming global trade. Ships could bypass the long and hazardous journey around Cape Horn, shortening voyages by thousands of kilometers and reducing shipping costs. Its impact went beyond commerce. It demonstrated the importance of public health, engineering innovation, and international cooperation. Over the 20th and 21st centuries, the canal has been expanded with larger locks to accommodate modern ships, reinforcing its strategic and economic significance. Today, the Panama Canal remains one of the most important and heavily trafficked waterways in the world, a lasting monument to human determination and ingenuity. The story of chocolate. Chocolate has a long and fascinating history that begins with the Maya and Aztecs in Mesoamerica. For these civilizations, cacao was more than a food. It was a sacred substance used in religious ceremonies, rituals, and even as a form of currency. The cacao beans were ground into a bitter, spiced drink, often mixed with chili, corn, or other local ingredients, and consumed during important spiritual events or by nobles and warriors. When Europeans arrived in the Americas during the 16th century, they encountered cacao and brought it back to Spain. Over time, sugar, honey, and milk were added to the traditional bitter drink, transforming it into a sweeter, more palatable treat. Chocolate quickly spread across Europe, becoming a luxury item enjoyed by the aristocracy. By the 17th and 18th centuries, new methods of processing and refining cacao allowed for solid forms of chocolate, including bars and confections, further increasing its popularity. The cultivation of cacao has influenced trade routes, economies, and labor systems around the world. Colonial powers established plantations in tropical regions, shaping global commerce and cultural exchange. Beyond its economic impact, chocolate reflects the evolution of human taste, creativity, and culinary innovation. From a sacred ceremonial drink in Mesoamerica to a widely enjoyed indulgence across continents, chocolate embodies centuries of cultural transformation. Today, it continues to inspire chefs, chocolatiers, and food enthusiasts, connecting people through flavor, history, and shared enjoyment. The story of ancient aqueducts. The Romans were master engineers, and among their most impressive achievements were aqueducts, elaborate structures designed to transport water across long distances with remarkable precision. Beginning in the 4th century BCE, Roman engineers built channels, bridges, and tunnels to carry fresh water from distant sources into cities, supplying public baths, fountains, private homes, and agricultural land. These systems were essential for hygiene, public health, and urban growth, allowing cities to flourish in ways previously unimaginable. Roman aqueducts relied on gravity, with carefully calculated gradients ensuring a continuous flow. Arches supported elevated sections, while tunnels carved through hills allowed the water to maintain its path across varied terrain. Some aqueducts stretched over dozens of kilometers, such as the Aqua Marcia or the Aqua Claudia in Rome, requiring extensive planning, skilled labor, and ongoing maintenance. Engineers also incorporated settling tanks, distribution points, and overflow systems, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics. Beyond supplying water, aqueducts shaped civic life. Fountains became gathering spots. Public baths offered leisure and social interaction, and agricultural lands received irrigation that increased productivity. Aqueducts symbolized Roman power and organization, reflecting the empire's ability to mobilize resources, labor, and knowledge for public benefit. Even today, remnants of Roman aqueducts stand as monuments to their ingenuity. Many have influenced modern water management, inspiring the design of pipelines, canals, and urban infrastructure worldwide. The Romans' ability to harness water so effectively shows how engineering, planning, and resource management can sustain large, thriving civilizations, linking human creativity with essential natural resources. The largest animal on Earth. If you think of something enormous, the blue whale immediately comes to mind. It is the largest animal that has ever lived on Earth. Adult blue whales can grow longer than many buildings, sometimes reaching over 30 meters, and they can weigh as much as 200 tons, far heavier than a fully loaded truck. Despite this immense size, their diet is surprisingly small. Blue whales feed almost entirely on tiny shrimp-like creatures called krill. By swimming with their mouths open, they filter enormous volumes of seawater through their baleen plates, trapping millions of these microscopic animals at a time. The contrast between their massive bodies and tiny food sources is striking. Their feeding behavior requires moving steadily through swarms of krill, opening and closing their mouths in rhythm to capture as many as possible. A single adult can consume several tons of krill in a day, swimming almost constantly to gather enough nourishment to sustain its enormous body. The scale of this interaction, the largest animal relying on some of the smallest life forms in the ocean, shapes much of its daily life and movement patterns. The deep blue ocean. The deep ocean begins around 200 meters below the surface, where sunlight can no longer reach and temperatures drop close to freezing. Pressure rises quickly as depth increases, creating an environment that is extreme by human standards. Despite these harsh conditions, the deep sea is home to remarkable and unusual creatures. Anglerfish lure prey with glowing appendages. Giant squid navigate the dark waters with oversized eyes, and countless bioluminescent plankton light up the depths in fleeting flashes. Scientists estimate that a large portion of marine life remains undiscovered, hidden in areas difficult to access and study. Many species are adapted to life in total darkness, with slow metabolisms, unique hunting strategies, and ways of reproducing that are still poorly understood. Some ecosystems thrive entirely without sunlight, relying instead on chemical energy from hydrothermal vents, where hot, mineral-rich water supports dense communities of tube worms, crustaceans, and microbes. Exploration of these depths continues to reveal surprises, showing that the deep ocean is not just empty space but a complex, vibrant world. Every new discovery expands our understanding of how life can survive and adapt in extreme conditions far removed from the surface. A small science story about penicillin. In the late 1920s, a scientist named Alexander Fleming noticed something unusual in one of his petri dishes. A mold had grown, and around it, the colonies of bacteria that normally filled the dish were gone. This unexpected observation led to the discovery of penicillin, the first widely used antibiotic, which would go on to save millions of lives and transform medicine. What makes this story remarkable isn't just the invention of a life-saving drug, it's the way Fleming approached the unexpected. Rather than discarding the contaminated dish as a failure, he studied it carefully, asking why the bacteria had disappeared. His curiosity and willingness to explore an unusual result turned a minor accident into a groundbreaking medical breakthrough. Penicillin's discovery also highlights a broader pattern in science and innovation. Many important advances begin with something out of place. A surprising observation, or a detail that doesn't fit expectations. A mind attentive to these moments, ready to investigate rather than ignore them, can turn chance into discovery. In this way, Fleming's example shows how careful observation, curiosity, and a willingness to follow unexpected leads are at the heart of many of the innovations we now take for granted. The shape of the Earth. Long before satellites or modern instruments, scholars found ways to measure the Earth using observation and reasoning. In ancient Greece, Eratosthenes noticed that at the same moment the sun shone directly into a deep well in the city of Syene. A nearby city, Alexandria, cast a shadow. By measuring the angle of that shadow and knowing the distance between the two cities, he calculated the Earth's circumference with striking accuracy, only a few percent of modern measurements. His method relied entirely on geometry, sunlight, and simple tools. Yet it revealed the planet's vast scale with precision that would not be greatly improved for nearly 2,000 years. How bread rises. At first glance, baking can feel like magic, a few simple ingredients turning into something warm and alive. But the secret lies in a mix of biology and chemistry. When yeast feeds on sugar in the dough, it releases carbon dioxide, forming tiny bubbles that make the dough expand and rise. As the bread bakes, the heat kills the yeast, hardens the proteins, and locks those bubbles in place, giving bread its soft, airy texture. It's a small miracle that repeats in kitchens every day, a living process transformed by heat into something comforting and familiar. And that's what makes food such a perfect way to see science at work. The chemistry isn't hidden in a lab, it's right there in every bite. Rainbows, light, and color. A rainbow is one of the most beautiful things a human can find in nature, yet it is a simple physics demonstration. Light enters a raindrop, it refracts, internally reflects, and exits at a slightly different angle. Because white sunlight is made of different wavelengths, each wavelength bends slightly differently, producing a spectrum covering red, yellow, green, and blue. Beyond the physics, rainbows have been powerful symbols in many cultures. In mythology and religion, they often represent a bridge between the human and the divine, a link between earth and sky. In Norse legends, the rainbow formed Bifrost, the glowing path connecting Midgard to the realm of the gods. In the Bible, it symbolized peace and renewal, marking the end of the flood and God's promise to humanity. Across the world, rainbows have stood for hope, transformation, and harmony after struggle, reminders that light can emerge even after the darkest storms. Accidental inventions. Many everyday items and technologies were never intentionally designed in the way we now know them. A glue that failed to set properly became the basis for pressure-sensitive adhesive, eventually leading to sticky notes used around the world. Microwave ovens came about when a scientist studying radar noticed a chocolate bar melting in his pocket, prompting further experiments with electromagnetic waves and food. Penicillin, one of the most important medical breakthroughs, was discovered when Alexander Fleming observed that a mold contaminating a petri dish killed surrounding bacteria. X-rays were identified when Wilhelm Röntgen noticed a fluorescent glow from a nearby screen while experimenting with cathode rays. In each case, an unplanned observation or a minor accident prompted further investigation. The outcome depended on someone paying attention to details others might have ignored and deciding to explore what appeared unusual. Even small, seemingly insignificant occurrences, like a misbehaving adhesive or a melting chocolate bar, eventually led to tools, medicines, and devices that became part of everyday life. The Internet and how it began. Today it feels like air, invisible but everywhere. Yet it began as a small research network during the Cold War. In the 1960s, scientists in the United States built a system called ARPANET to connect computers at different universities. The goal was to share data and make communication between distant machines possible. At first, the network only connected a handful of computers. Messages were sent as short packets, which could travel different routes before reassembling at the destination. A clever design that allowed the system to survive, even if one connection failed. This principle of packet switching is still how the Internet works today. By the 1990s, the invention of the World Wide Web made it accessible to ordinary users. Pages linked to other pages, forming the digital landscape we now navigate daily. So, while it feels new, the internet's roots go back over half a century, to engineers solving the problem of how to make distant machines speak the same language. Time for another knowledge nugget. When brewing filter coffee, adding a small pinch of salt can make a noticeable difference in flavor. While it may seem unusual, salt works by softening the natural bitterness of the coffee, helping the other flavors come forward more clearly. It doesn't make the coffee taste salty. Instead, it subtly balances the taste, creating a smoother, richer cup. The effect is particularly useful for darker roasts or beans that tend to be more bitter, as the salt rounds out harsh notes without masking the coffee's natural aroma. Simply sprinkle a tiny amount into the coffee grounds before brewing, and you may notice that the resulting cup feels fuller. Many coffee enthusiasts find this small adjustment transforms a standard filter coffee into a more enjoyable and well-rounded experience, highlighting flavors that might otherwise be overshadowed by bitterness. The biggest volcanoes and how they aren't always explosive. Some of the largest volcanic systems on Earth are enormous, and their eruptions, even when they continue for thousands of years, often produce slow-moving lava flows rather than violent explosions. These volcanoes, known as shield volcanoes, form broad, gently sloping mountains as layers of lava build up gradually over long periods. They can cover thousands of square kilometers, far larger than the steep, cone-shaped volcanoes people often imagine. Despite their immense size, shield volcanoes do not always erupt with the sudden, catastrophic force commonly depicted in movies. Their lava tends to flow steadily and spread over wide areas instead of blasting violently into the air. This type of eruption can still reshape landscapes significantly, creating new land, altering coastlines and impacting local ecosystems, but the changes happen more gradually than the dramatic explosions often associated with volcanic activity. Many of these volcanoes are located in places like the Hawaiian Islands, where continuous lava flows over centuries have created the islands themselves. The combination of slow-moving lava and repeated eruptions contributes to their massive size. Studying shield volcanoes helps scientists understand how volcanic activity can operate over long timescales, producing some of the largest and most stable landforms on the planet without the extreme violence often expected from a volcano. Why language evolves. Words travel with people, with trade, and with the spread of ideas, often carrying histories that stretch across centuries and continents. A single word can change meaning as it moves from one region to another, picking up new shades while leaving older meanings behind. For example, the English word tea comes from the Chinese tea, brought to Europe through trade with southern China, while sugar traveled from Sanskrit through Arabic and Latin before becoming part of European languages. Even words we use every day, like salary, which comes from the Latin salarium meaning salt allowance, reveal surprising connections to past economies, trade, and social structures. Tracing the origin of a word uncovers a small map of human interaction. Merchants carried terms along trade routes, conquerors spread languages through conquest, scholars preserved and adapted phrases, and ordinary speakers changed pronunciation and usage over time. Some words even borrow from multiple languages, reflecting centuries of cultural exchange. Etymology, the study of a word's history, shows how language evolves alongside human activity. It links something as simple as a greeting, a tool name, or a common noun to global movements of people, ideas, and goods. By following the path of words, you can see how human communication is shaped by travel, commerce, and cultural contact across generations. A small natural wonder, bioluminescence. Some organisms generate their own light through a process called bioluminescence. In parts of the ocean, tiny plankton glow when waves or currents disturb the water, creating sparkling displays that can stretch for miles. On land, certain fungi emit a faint, steady glow in dark forests, while some insects, like fireflies, use light to attract mates or communicate. Even deep-sea creatures, such as anglerfish, produce light to lure prey in the pitch-black depths. Bioluminescence relies on chemical reactions inside the organism, turning energy into visible light. These examples show how life can harness physics in unusual and creative ways, producing natural light that serves purposes from communication to hunting in environments where sunlight cannot reach. Short science: how vaccines work. Vaccines work by training the immune system to recognize a pathogen without causing the full disease. They introduce a harmless version, a fragment, or an inactive form of a virus or bacterium, allowing the body to develop defenses. If the real pathogen appears later, the immune system can respond more quickly and effectively, often preventing illness or reducing its severity. Beyond protecting individuals, vaccines have a broad impact on public health. They prevent outbreaks, reduce the spread of disease, and allow societies to function more smoothly. The benefits are seen not only in lives saved, but also in the continuation of everyday activities, schools, work, travel, and social life that would otherwise be disrupted by epidemics or widespread illness. A small musical story: how recording changed music. When sound recording became reliable in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, music underwent a major transformation. Performances that had once existed only in the moment could now be captured, replayed, and shared across time and space. Before recordings, people could only experience a piece of music by attending a live performance. To listen again, one had to either hear it performed repeatedly or play it oneself. The introduction of recordings meant that music became a tangible object: records, tapes, or CDs that listeners could own and play at their convenience. This shift changed both how people listened and how artists composed, encouraging new styles and experimentation that could reach wider audiences. Music became a repeatable, analyzable, and distributable cultural asset, rather than a fleeting experience limited to live events. Later innovations, including radio and phonographs, spread music even further. More recently, streaming platforms have made music instantly accessible worldwide, allowing listeners to explore countless artists and genres without needing a physical recording. Recording and streaming together have transformed music into a universally available resource, shaping listening habits, influencing composition, and redefining how creativity circulates in modern culture. DNA. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is the molecule that stores and transmits genetic information in all living organisms. Its structure is famously described as a double helix, two strands twisted together like a spiral staircase. Each strand is composed of four chemical bases: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, which act like letters in a complex biological code. The sequence of these bases determines an organism's traits, influencing everything from eye color and height to metabolism and susceptibility to certain diseases. In 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick described the structure of DNA, a discovery that laid the foundation for modern genetics and biotechnology. Understanding DNA has since revolutionized science and medicine. It enables genetic testing, the identification of hereditary conditions, and personalized treatments tailored to an individual's genetic makeup. DNA analysis also plays a crucial role in forensic investigations, helping identify individuals in criminal cases, and in ancestry research, revealing connections across generations and populations. The study of DNA continues to expand, offering new insights into evolution, health, and the fundamental mechanisms of life. Antibiotics. Antibiotics transformed medicine in the 20th century, turning previously deadly infections into treatable conditions. The first true antibiotic, penicillin, was discovered in 1928 by Alexander Fleming. This accidental observation led to a medical breakthrough. By World War II, penicillin was being mass-produced, saving countless lives from infections that had once been fatal. Antibiotics work by either killing bacteria directly or preventing them from multiplying, giving the body a chance to fight off infection. Over the decades, they have become a cornerstone of modern medicine, used to treat illnesses ranging from pneumonia to wound infections. However, the widespread and sometimes careless use of antibiotics has contributed to the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. These strains can survive treatment, making infections harder to treat and highlighting the ongoing need for careful use and continued research to maintain the effectiveness of these vital medicines. Airplanes. The Wright brothers made history in 1903 with the first controlled, powered flight. Their aircraft, the Wright Flyer, stayed in the air for just 12 seconds, but it demonstrated that human flight was possible. In the decades that followed, aviation advanced rapidly. Planes evolved from fragile wooden structures to metal aircraft with powerful engines capable of flying across oceans. Air travel transformed the world, connecting continents, enabling faster global trade, and making distant places more accessible than ever before. Modern commercial jets can carry hundreds of passengers at speeds approaching 900 kilometers per hour, making long journeys that once took weeks possible in mere hours. Aviation continues to shape how people, goods, and ideas move across the globe. Electricity in everyday life. Electricity became a defining feature of daily life in the late 19th century. One of the most influential developments was the invention of the practical light bulb, perfected by Thomas Edison and other inventors. This innovation allowed homes and streets to be illuminated safely and consistently, replacing candles and gas lamps, which were not only dim but also posed significant fire hazards. Suddenly, evenings could be longer and more productive, and urban life took on a new rhythm. The spread of electrical grids across cities made it possible for a wide range of other inventions to emerge. Household appliances like washing machines and refrigerators transformed domestic life, reducing the time and labor required for chores and improving food preservation. Radios brought news and entertainment directly into people's homes, connecting communities in ways that had previously been impossible. Streetlights and electric trams reshaped urban environments, influencing work hours, social life, and city planning. Electricity also laid the foundation for future technological advancements. As homes and cities became wired, innovations in communication, industry, and transportation followed, from telephones to electric streetcars. Over time, electricity became not just a convenience but an essential part of modern life, shaping how people work, relax, and interact with their surroundings. Its integration into daily routines marked a significant turning point in human history, altering the pace and possibilities of everyday existence. Here comes another knowledge nugget for Mac and Windows users. There are many useful shortcuts on Mac that make everyday tasks a little easier, yet many people still don't know about them. One of the most practical is Command plus Space, which opens Spotlight Search. It lets you instantly find files, apps, or even perform quick calculations. On Windows, the same function can be accessed with Windows key plus S. Another helpful shortcut is Control plus Command plus Q to instantly lock your screen. On Windows, that's Windows key plus L. Small shortcuts like these don't just save time, they make your computer feel faster and more effortless to use. The origin of coffee. According to legend, coffee was first discovered in Ethiopia when a goat herder noticed that his goats became unusually energetic after eating red berries from a particular tree. Curious about the effect, he brought the berries to a nearby monastery, where monks experimented with them to stay awake during long prayer sessions. The stimulating effects of the berries soon became valued, and knowledge of coffee spread beyond Ethiopia. From there, coffee made its way to Yemen, where it was cultivated and traded across the Arabian Peninsula. By the 16th century, coffee had reached the Middle East and North Africa, becoming an integral part of social and cultural life. Coffee houses emerged as spaces for discussion, business, and the exchange of ideas, often referred to as schools of conversation. Eventually, coffee traveled to Europe, where it inspired its own traditions and quickly became a popular beverage. Today, billions of cups are consumed worldwide every day, making coffee one of the most widely enjoyed drinks and a central part of daily routines across cultures. The invention of the steam engine. Long before cars, planes, or electric motors, the world ran on steam. The steam engine became the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution, a machine that turned heat into power and reshaped nearly every part of daily life. The earliest versions appeared in the early 18th century, when Thomas Newcomen built a device to pump water from flooded coal mines in England. It was slow and inefficient, but it worked, proof that steam could do what human and animal labor could not. A few decades later, James Watt improved on Newcomen's design, adding a separate condenser that made the engine far more powerful and efficient. Watt's refinements turned the steam engine from a curiosity into a driving force of industry. Factories began to hum with activity, using steam to power spinning frames, hammers, and presses. Mines could dig deeper, ships could travel against the wind, and railways soon carried people and goods farther than ever before. Towns grew around factories, and cities swelled with workers drawn to the promise of steady employment. Steam changed not just how things were made, but how people lived and moved. Trains connected distant places, carrying letters, coal, and families across landscapes once thought impassable. The steady rhythm of pistons and gears marked the arrival of a new age, one where progress was measured not by muscle or wind, but by the hiss and pulse of steam itself. The invention of paper. Paper was first created in China around 2000 years ago during the Han Dynasty as a practical and versatile material for writing. Early paper was made from crushed plant fibers, such as hemp, mulberry bark, and rags, which were soaked in water to form a pulp. This pulp was then pressed flat into thin sheets and left to dry, producing a smooth, flexible surface suitable for ink and brush. Before the invention of paper, people relied on materials that were less convenient and more expensive. Records were kept on clay tablets, wooden boards, silk or parchment made from animal skins. These materials were heavy, difficult to produce in large quantities, and often fragile, limiting the spread of written information. Paper offered a simpler, more affordable alternative that could be produced in larger quantities and easily transported. The introduction of paper transformed writing and communication. It allowed scholars, governments, and artists to record ideas, maintain records, and share knowledge more efficiently. Over time, the use of paper spread throughout Asia and eventually reached the Middle East and Europe, influencing education, literature, and administration. Paper became essential for preserving cultural heritage, scientific discoveries, and historical documents, making it one of humanity's most important inventions. Its creation laid the foundation for literacy, learning, and the exchange of ideas on a scale previously unimaginable. The solar system. The solar system is made up of the Sun and all objects held by its gravity, including 8 planets, their moons, asteroids, comets, and dwarf planets such as Pluto. The planets are divided into 2 groups: the rocky inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, and the larger gas giants farther out like Jupiter and Saturn. The Sun provides the energy that drives weather, climates, and life on Earth, making it the central force of the system. While humans have only visited the Moon, robotic spacecraft have explored many other planets and smaller bodies. These missions have sent back detailed images, measurements, and data, greatly expanding our understanding of planetary atmospheres, surfaces, and composition. Space probes continue to reveal the complexity and diversity of our solar neighborhood. The human eye. The human eye functions much like a camera, capturing light and converting it into signals that the brain can interpret as images. It is capable of detecting millions of colors and adjusting rapidly to different lighting conditions, allowing us to see in both bright daylight and dim environments. The eye can also focus on objects at varying distances, thanks to the flexible lens and coordinated action of the ciliary muscles. At the back of the eye, the retina contains specialized cells called rods and cones. Rods are highly sensitive to light and help us see in low light conditions, while cones detect color and detail, allowing for sharp, vivid vision. Together, these cells send complex information through the optic nerve to the brain, where it is processed into the images we perceive. Beyond vision, eyes play a significant role in human communication. Subtle movements, expressions, and eye contact can convey emotion, intention, and attention, often more powerfully than words alone. The eyes are both sensory organs and social tools, integrating physical perception with nonverbal communication in everyday life. The invention of the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell was awarded a patent for the telephone in 1876, marking a major breakthrough in communication. His invention allowed the human voice to be transmitted over electrical wires, enabling people to talk to each other across long distances in ways that had never been possible before. Early telephone systems were simple. A direct line connected one location to another, so each pair of phones required its own dedicated wire. As demand grew, engineers developed telephone exchanges, which allowed multiple users to connect through a central switchboard. This innovation eventually led to widespread networks, making it possible to reach almost any location within a country and, over time, internationally. The telephone fundamentally changed how people and businesses communicated. It sped up information exchange, facilitated trade, and transformed social interactions. The principles behind Bell's invention also laid the groundwork for later communication technologies, from long-distance telephony to mobile phones and the Internet. Today, the telephone remains a cornerstone of global connectivity, showing how a single invention can reshape daily life and link people around the world. The largest volcano, Mauna Loa. Mauna Loa in Hawaii is the largest volcano on Earth, rising more than 13,000 feet above sea level, with much of its massive structure hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean. Its sheer size makes it a dominant feature of the Hawaiian Islands, shaping landscapes, coastlines, and ecosystems. The volcano is still active, with its most recent eruption occurring in 2022, when lava flowed across its slopes, demonstrating that even enormous mountains remain dynamic and constantly changing. Mauna Loa's activity influences local geography, creates new land over time, and affects habitats for plants, animals, and human communities. As both a natural wonder and a geological force, it continues to be closely monitored for volcanic activity and serves as a striking example of Earth's ongoing processes. The history of the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games have a long and storied history, beginning in ancient Greece around 776 BCE. They were originally held in the city of Olympia and were part of a religious festival honoring Zeus, the chief Greek god. Athletes from various Greek city-states competed in events such as running, wrestling, discus, javelin, and chariot racing. These early games were exclusively for men, and winners were celebrated with olive wreaths, fame, and honor for their cities. The competitions fostered a sense of unity among the often warring city-states and showcased the value placed on physical excellence, discipline, and strategy. After centuries of interruption, the Olympic Games were revived in 1896, largely due to the efforts of Pierre de Coubertin, a French educator who wanted to promote international understanding through sport. The first modern games were held in Athens, Greece, paying homage to their ancient origins. Athletes from 14 nations competed in events that reflected both classical and contemporary sports traditions. Since then, the Olympic Games have grown into a global phenomenon. Held every 4 years with separate summer and winter editions, modern events cover a wide range of sports, from athletics and swimming to skiing and ice hockey. The Games now feature athletes from nearly every country in the world, celebrating diversity, dedication, and excellence. Beyond competition, the Olympics have become a platform for cultural exchange, international diplomacy, and inspiration, attracting millions of spectators and billions of viewers worldwide. Knowledge nugget number 7. Did you know that adding just a pinch of baking soda to boiling vegetables can help them retain their bright, vibrant color? The science behind it is simple. Baking soda slightly raises the pH of the water, which stabilizes chlorophyll, the green pigment in vegetables. This prevents it from turning dull or olive-colored during cooking, keeping your greens looking fresh and appealing. However, it's important to use this trick sparingly. Too much baking soda can break down the vegetables' cell walls, making them soft, mushy, or even altering their flavor. A tiny pinch is usually enough to make a visible difference without compromising texture. This works especially well for green vegetables like broccoli, spinach, peas, and green beans. The solar eclipse. Eclipses follow predictable cycles, yet any given location on Earth experiences them only occasionally. This combination of predictability and rarity has fascinated humans for millennia. Ancient cultures often interpreted solar eclipses as powerful omens or messages from the gods. Some civilizations viewed the sudden darkness as a sign of upheaval, while others saw it as a moment for reflection or ritual. In certain societies, eclipses were woven into myths about cosmic dragons or serpents consuming the sun, with communities performing ceremonies to ensure the sun's return. Beyond cultural significance, solar eclipses have played an important role in scientific discovery. Observations of eclipses have confirmed the bending of light around massive objects, helping to validate Einstein's theory of general relativity. Eclipses have also allowed astronomers to study the sun's corona, measure the sun's diameter, and better understand the Earth-Moon-Sun system. Even today, a solar eclipse carries an air of mystery and wonder. People travel great distances to witness totality, experiencing firsthand the sudden shift from day to night, the dramatic shadows, and the subtle changes in temperature and light. The combination of natural spectacle, scientific intrigue, and deep-rooted cultural meaning makes a solar eclipse a moment that continues to captivate the imagination. The discovery of insulin. The discovery of insulin in 1921 marked a turning point in the treatment of diabetes. Before this breakthrough, diabetes was essentially a fatal condition. Patients with type 1 diabetes, in particular, faced rapid deterioration, often leading to severe complications such as kidney failure, nerve damage, and eventually death. Treatments before insulin were limited to strict diets, which could slow progression but offered little hope for long-term survival. Frederick Banting, a Canadian physician, and Charles Best, a medical student, conducted experiments at the University of Toronto to extract a substance from the pancreas that could control blood sugar. Their work built on earlier research suggesting that the pancreas produced a hormone regulating glucose. In collaboration with biochemist James Collip, they successfully purified insulin and tested it on dogs before administering it to a human patient, a 14-year-old boy named Leonard Thompson, who showed dramatic improvement. The discovery of insulin transformed diabetes care almost immediately. Patients could now regulate their blood sugar levels effectively, leading to longer, healthier lives. The impact was profound. What had once been a death sentence became a manageable condition, allowing people to pursue careers, education, and family life with much greater security. Insulin's discovery also spurred further research in endocrinology and medicine, paving the way for synthetic and recombinant insulin production decades later. Today, insulin remains essential for millions of people worldwide, used in various forms and delivery methods. Its discovery is remembered not only as a milestone in medical history, but also as a triumph of careful research, persistence, and collaboration that continues to save lives every day. The Amazon River. The Amazon River is the largest river in the world by volume, carrying more water than any other river system on Earth. Stretching over 6,400 kilometers, it begins in the Andes Mountains of Peru and winds its way through dense tropical rainforests before emptying into the Atlantic Ocean in Brazil. Its vast basin covers much of northern South America and is home to the Amazon rainforest, one of the planet's most biodiverse regions. The river supports millions of species, from colorful fish and pink river dolphins to jaguars and countless insects. It also sustains indigenous communities who have relied on its waters for food, transportation, and culture for thousands of years. Seasonal floods transform the forest into a temporary aquatic world, enriching the soil and maintaining the delicate ecosystem. Beyond its ecological importance, the Amazon River plays a vital role in regulating the Earth's climate. Its forests absorb massive amounts of carbon dioxide and release oxygen, influencing weather patterns across continents. However, deforestation and climate change threaten this balance. The Amazon River remains a symbol of nature's power and mystery, a living, breathing system that connects land, life, and atmosphere in one vast cycle. The invention of the compass. Long before satellites and GPS, travelers looked to the stars, the position of the sun, or recognizable landmarks to find their way. Navigation was uncertain and often dangerous, especially across vast oceans or featureless deserts. The invention of the compass transformed this uncertainty into precision. The first compasses were developed in ancient China around the 11th century, though early records suggest that lodestone, a naturally magnetized mineral, was used for divination even earlier. Eventually, its unique property of aligning with Earth's magnetic field was applied to navigation. By suspending a lodestone on silk or floating it in water, travelers could determine direction even when the sky was obscured. As knowledge spread along trade routes, the compass reached the Islamic world and later, medieval Europe. It quickly became indispensable to sailors during the Age of Exploration. Figures like Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus relied on it to cross uncharted seas, leading to the discovery of new continents and the expansion of global trade. Over centuries, the compass evolved. From simple magnetic needles to precision-engineered instruments housed in protective casings. it remains one of humanity's most transformative inventions, a symbol of discovery that guided civilizations toward connection, exploration, and understanding of the wider world. The printing press. Before the printing press, books were precious and few. Each one had to be copied by hand, a slow and painstaking task done by scribes in monasteries or royal courts. Because of this, knowledge was often limited to scholars, nobles, and the wealthy. That began to change around 1440, when Johannes Gutenberg in Mainz, Germany, developed the first practical printing press. His invention used movable metal type, small, reusable letters that could be arranged to form words and pages. Once inked and pressed onto paper, they produced identical copies in a fraction of the time it took to write by hand. The impact was immediate and extraordinary. Books became cheaper and easier to produce, allowing ordinary people to own and read them for the first time. Literacy began to rise across Europe, and a wave of curiosity followed. Scientists could share discoveries more widely. Thinkers could debate ideas across borders, and new forms of literature began to emerge. Gutenberg's press didn't just reproduce words, it multiplied thought itself. The spread of printed material helped fuel the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the scientific revolution. Newspapers, pamphlets, and maps appeared, connecting cities and shaping public opinion. Printers became the quiet architects of an age defined by information and imagination. The Taj Mahal. Rising from the banks of the Yamuna River in northern India, the Taj Mahal shimmers like a dream in stone. Its pale marble surface changes color with the light, glowing pink at dawn, ivory in the midday sun, and silver beneath the moon. Built in the 17th century by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, it was created in memory of his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who died during childbirth. What began as a personal expression of grief became one of the world's most admired symbols of love and craftsmanship. Construction took over 20 years and required thousands of artisans, architects, and laborers. Precious materials from across Asia were brought to Agra. Jade from China, turquoise from Tibet, and lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. Each inlay, each carved petal, was placed with meticulous precision. The central dome rises gracefully above the tombs of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, surrounded by 4 slender minarets that balance its symmetry. The design blends Persian geometry, Islamic calligraphy, and Indian artistry into a single, harmonious form. The gardens are arranged as a reflection of paradise, divided by waterways that symbolize life, purity, and eternity. As visitors walk through the archways and along the reflecting pools, the building seems to float, perfectly mirrored in the water below, an illusion of weightless beauty born from stone and devotion. The Code of Hammurabi. Over 3,700 years ago, in the ancient city of Babylon, King Hammurabi created one of the earliest known written legal codes by carving a set of laws into large stone steles. These laws were intended to govern daily life and maintain order in a growing and complex society. The code covered a wide range of topics, including trade, property, family relationships, labor, and punishments for crimes. Some of its rules became famous, such as the principle often summarized as an eye for an eye, reflecting a system of retribution meant to balance offenses with proportional consequences. Hammurabi's code was inscribed in cuneiform, the writing system of the time, and displayed publicly so that citizens could see the laws, even if not everyone could read them. This public display emphasized transparency and the idea that rules applied to all people, from commoners to officials. Many of the regulations addressed contracts, wages, and commerce, showing how legal systems were used to protect property and business relationships, while other laws focused on family and social responsibility. The code also reveals how ancient societies thought about fairness, justice, and authority. While by modern standards some punishments might seem harsh, the laws were intended to prevent chaos and arbitrariness, offering clear guidelines for resolving disputes. Hammurabi's work influenced later legal systems and demonstrates that even in early civilizations, people sought ways to organize their communities and create a sense of predictability and stability in everyday life. Coming to knowledge nugget number 8. A quick kitchen tip for keeping your herbs fresh longer. When storing delicate herbs like parsley, cilantro, or basil, don't just toss them in the fridge in a bag. Instead, trim the stems and place them in a glass or jar of water, like a mini bouquet. Then, loosely cover the leaves with a plastic bag and place the container in the refrigerator. This method creates a mini greenhouse effect, keeping the herbs hydrated while reducing exposure to dry air that causes wilting. With this simple setup, your herbs can stay fresh for up to 2 weeks, much longer than the few days they usually last when stored conventionally. You can also refresh herbs that are starting to lose their beauty by giving the stems a small trim and changing the water. This trick saves money, reduces food waste, and ensures you always have vibrant, flavorful herbs ready to add to salads, sauces, or garnishes. The first Olympic marathon. The marathon made its Olympic debut at the first modern games in Athens in 1896, drawing inspiration from the ancient story of Pheidippides, a Greek messenger who ran from the battlefield at Marathon to Athens to deliver news of victory over the Persians. The original race covered roughly 40 kilometers, though it was later standardized to 42.195 kilometers. The event immediately captured the attention of spectators, blending athleticism, endurance, and a connection to Greece's storied past. On that first Olympic marathon, Spiridon Louis, a humble Greek water carrier, won the race and became an instant national hero. His victory was celebrated across the country, symbolizing both personal determination and national pride. The race tested more than speed. It challenged stamina, strategy, and mental resilience, qualities that would define marathons for generations to come. The 1896 marathon also set a precedent for including long-distance running as a central event in international athletics. Runners from different nations competed not just for medals, but to push the limits of human endurance. Over time, the marathon grew in popularity beyond the Olympics, inspiring road races and long-distance events worldwide. The combination of legend, challenge, and achievement helped secure the marathon's place as one of the most iconic competitions in sport. Its story continues to connect the modern athletic world with ancient Greek history while highlighting the extraordinary capacity of the human body and spirit. The history of the bicycle. The bicycle's history begins in 1817, when German inventor Karl Dries introduced the Laufmaschine, or running machine, a wooden two-wheeled vehicle propelled by pushing one's feet against the ground. This early design was simple but revolutionary, offering individuals a faster way to travel than walking. In the 1860s, French inventors added pedals to the front wheel, creating the velocipede. This innovation allowed riders to move without touching the ground, although early versions were often uncomfortable and difficult to balance. Further developments in the late 19th century, such as the addition of chains, gears, and rubber tires, led to the safety bicycle, which had a design very similar to modern bicycles. This made riding more stable, efficient, and accessible to a wider audience. Bicycles quickly became a popular form of transportation, offering an affordable and independent way to move around towns and cities. Their popularity influenced urban planning, road construction, and even clothing, as riders needed garments suited for mobility. Cycling also had social impacts, particularly for women. By providing personal mobility, Bicycles contributed to women's emancipation, allowing them more freedom to travel independently and participate in public life. Beyond transportation, bicycles became a source of recreation, sport, and competition, inspiring races and clubs. Over time, the bicycle evolved from a simple wooden invention into a versatile, globally recognized symbol of freedom, innovation, and personal mobility. The first photograph ever taken. In 1826, French inventor Joseph Nicéphore Niepce created what is considered the first permanent photograph, known as View from the Window at Le Gras. Using a pewter plate coated with a light-sensitive substance called bitumen of Judea, Niepce captured an image through a camera obscura. The exposure lasted several hours, allowing sunlight to gradually darken the bitumen and create a faint yet lasting impression of rooftops, fields, and distant light. This achievement marked a significant step in the attempt to mechanically record reality. Niepce continued to experiment with chemical processes to improve image clarity and reduce exposure times. In the late 1820s, he formed a partnership with Louis Daguerre, which eventually led to the development of the daguerreotype. This new process produced sharper images on silver-plated copper sheets and required much shorter exposures, making photography more practical and accessible. The innovations of Niepce and Daguerre transformed how people could preserve memories, document landscapes, and record historical events. Photography moved beyond sketches and paintings, offering a mechanical method to capture light and reality with unprecedented fidelity. Over time, their work laid the foundation for modern photographic techniques, from film to digital cameras, influencing art, journalism, science, and everyday life. The discovery of Neanderthals. In 1856, workers in a limestone quarry in the Neander Valley, near Düsseldorf, Germany, uncovered a set of unusual fossilized bones. Among the remains were a thick skull cap, limb bones, and parts of a pelvis that appeared distinct from modern human anatomy. Scientists were intrigued and puzzled, sparking intense debate about the origin of these fossils. Some scholars proposed that the bones belonged to a primitive form of Homo sapiens, while others suggested they represented an entirely separate species. This discussion laid the groundwork for a new understanding of human evolution. Over the following decades, similar discoveries across Europe and parts of Western Asia revealed more fossils with the same unique characteristics. These findings confirmed the existence of a distinct population, later named Homo neanderthalensis, or Neanderthals. The species showed adaptations to the cold Ice Age climates of Europe, including robust bones, large nasal cavities, and strong muscles. Archaeological evidence indicated that Neanderthals were skilled toolmakers, capable of crafting sophisticated stone implements, and that they controlled fire for cooking and warmth. Sites also revealed signs of burial practices, suggesting complex social behaviors and possibly symbolic thought. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, genetic research added another dimension to our understanding of Neanderthals. DNA analysis demonstrated that modern humans and Neanderthals interbred at various points in prehistory. As a result, many people today carry small percentages of Neanderthal DNA, influencing traits from immunity to skin and hair characteristics. These discoveries transformed the view of Neanderthals from brutish cavemen to a sophisticated, adaptable species with close connections to modern humans, highlighting the complexity of human evolution and the shared ancestry that links us to these ancient relatives. The first lighthouse. Among the earliest and most iconic lighthouses was the Pharos of Alexandria, constructed around 280 BCE on the island of Pharos in Egypt. Towering over 100 meters, it became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Its primary purpose was to guide ships safely into the bustling harbor of Alexandria, using an open flame reflected by polished bronze mirrors. The lighthouse symbolized human ingenuity and maritime ambition, inspiring similar structures across the Mediterranean. As trade and exploration expanded, lighthouses became critical tools for navigation. Early versions were simple wooden towers with fires or oil lamps, but over centuries, technological advances transformed them. Stone towers replaced wood, and light sources improved, eventually leading to the development of Fresnel lenses in the 19th century. These lenses concentrated light into beams visible over great distances, dramatically increasing safety for seafarers. The automation of lighthouses in modern times reduced the need for keepers, yet their role as symbols of security and guidance remained. Positioned along dangerous coasts, shoals, and river mouths, each lighthouse provided sailors with a visual reference, helping them avoid hazards and reach ports safely. Beyond their practical function, lighthouses represented a broader expansion of human capability, allowing maritime civilization to thrive across oceans and connect distant lands through trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. Their presence along coastlines continues to stand as a testament to the intersection of technology, navigation, and human ingenuity. The history of soap. The earliest soaps were mixtures of animal fats and ashes, used by ancient Babylonians as early as 2800 BCE. These early forms served practical purposes, such as cleaning wool and textiles, rather than personal hygiene. In ancient Egypt, soap making evolved with the addition of aromatic oils, used both for bathing and in religious rituals. The Romans further refined soap for medical and cosmetic purposes, integrating it into public bath culture and everyday life. After the fall of Rome, knowledge of soap making persisted in the Middle East, where craftsmen continued to experiment with oils, alkalis, and fragrances. Through trade and contact during the Crusades, soap returned to Europe, and by the Middle Ages, it had become a symbol of luxury and skillful craftsmanship. Cities such as Marseille, Aleppo, and Venice gained renown for their high-quality soaps. Often scented and molded into decorative shapes for the wealthy, the Industrial Revolution transformed soap from a luxury item into a household necessity. Chemists developed new formulas, such as glycerin and synthetic detergents, and mass production lowered costs, making soap accessible to a much broader population. Public awareness of hygiene and sanitation increased, and regular soap use became linked with reducing disease and promoting health. From its humble beginnings in ancient Babylon to modern factories, soap has evolved alongside human knowledge of chemistry, medicine, and public health. Its story reflects not just changes in technology and culture, but also humanity's ongoing effort to improve daily life and combat disease, turning a simple cleaning substance into one of the most vital tools for hygiene and well-being. The story of the Easter Island statues. The Moai statues of Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, were carved between roughly 1250 and 1500 CE, representing ancestors, spiritual figures, and symbols of social authority. Made primarily from volcanic tuff, a relatively soft rock found on the island, the statues vary in size, with some towering over 10 meters tall and weighing more than 80 tons. The scale of these works is staggering, especially considering that the society that created them had no modern machinery. Transporting the moai from the quarries to their final locations along the coastline required extraordinary ingenuity. Archaeologists believe the islanders used a combination of ropes, wooden sledges, and log rollers, along with carefully coordinated labor, to walk the statues upright across uneven terrain. Some experiments suggest that a rocking or swaying motion may have allowed the statues to move forward, a method that would have demanded precise planning and group coordination. This feat demonstrates the complex social organization and engineering knowledge of a relatively isolated society. The placement of moai also held deep cultural significance. Many statues were erected on ceremonial platforms called ahu, facing inland to watch over villages and mark sacred sites. Their presence reinforced leadership, religious authority, and ancestral connections. Beyond their functional and spiritual roles, the moai embody remarkable artistry. Each figure displays individualized features, subtle expressions, and intricate details that communicate identity and status. The mystery surrounding the moai, how they were carved, transported, and erected, continues to captivate researchers, historians, and tourists alike. Even without written records, the statues reveal a society capable of sophisticated planning, technical skill, and artistic expression. The moai remain enduring symbols of human creativity and cultural achievement, illustrating how isolated communities developed impressive solutions to monumental challenges long before the advent of modern tools or technology, leaving a legacy that continues to intrigue and inspire visitors from around the world. The origins of sushi. Sushi has a long and fascinating history that begins in Southeast Asia, where people first developed it as a method to preserve fish. By fermenting fish with rice, they could extend its shelf life, allowing communities to store protein for months without refrigeration. This early form, known as narazushi, emphasized preservation over immediate consumption, and the rice was often discarded before eating the fish. When sushi arrived in Japan, it gradually transformed into something quite different. By the Edo period, 1603 to 1868, Japanese chefs began serving fresh fish with rice, using skillful knife techniques and seasonings such as vinegar to enhance flavor and texture. This shift from fermentation to freshness reflected both changes in taste and advances in food handling, as well as the increasing availability of fish in coastal regions. Sushi became not only a meal, but also an art form. Presentation mattered as much as taste, with careful attention to color, shape, and arrangement. Sushi influenced more than just cuisine. It shaped culinary etiquette and social rituals, from the way it was served and eaten to its role in markets and festivals. The preparation of sushi required precise knowledge of ingredients, timing, and technique, creating a culture of mastery passed down through generations. Trade networks developed for fresh fish and high-quality rice, connecting regions and promoting economic exchange. Over time, sushi spread beyond Japan, becoming a global phenomenon. Today it exists in countless variations, from traditional nigiri and sashimi to innovative rolls that fuse flavors from around the world. Despite its international popularity, sushi retains a deep connection to its origins, blending preservation, flavor, and aesthetics. It stands as a striking example of how human creativity can transform necessity into culture, turning simple ingredients into an enduring culinary tradition that continues to evolve while honoring centuries of craftsmanship and artistry. Here comes another knowledge nugget. This one is about psychology. Humans have a negativity bias, which means we naturally pay more attention to negative events than positive ones. It's an evolutionary trait. Being alert to danger helped our ancestors survive. But it can make everyday life feel more stressful or discouraging than it really is. One simple technique to counter this is called a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 good things that happened, no matter how small. It could be enjoying a cup of coffee, receiving a kind message, or seeing a beautiful sunset. Over time, this trains your brain to notice positive experiences more readily, balancing out the natural negativity bias. Research shows people who practice this regularly report higher levels of happiness, improved sleep, and even stronger relationships. By focusing intentionally on the good, you can shift your perspective and make small changes that add up to lasting improvements in mood and well-being. The discovery of magnetism. The discovery of magnetism dates back to ancient times. As early as 600 BCE, people in China observed lodestones, naturally magnetized pieces of mineral attracting iron. These mysterious stones fascinated early observers, who noticed that they could pull metal objects without touching them. Across cultures, similar observations appeared, from the Greeks to the Indians, as humans slowly began to explore this invisible force. Over centuries, careful experimentation revealed more about magnetic attraction and repulsion. By the medieval period, the properties of magnetism were applied to navigation. The compass, derived from lodestone, became an essential tool for sailors, allowing explorers to traverse oceans and connect continents with greater confidence. The ability to determine direction reliably transformed trade, exploration, and cultural exchange, laying the groundwork for globalization. Scientific study of magnetism continued into the Renaissance and beyond. Researchers such as William Gilbert in the 16th century began systematically investigating magnetic forces, distinguishing between natural magnetism and artificial magnetized objects. These discoveries eventually led to the understanding of electricity and the link between electric currents and magnetic fields, a cornerstone of modern physics. Today, magnetism underpins much of daily life and technology. It drives motors, powers generators, and forms the basis of electronics from computers to smartphones. Even invisible, its effects are everywhere, from the movement of trains to the storage of information on hard drives. The study of magnetism demonstrates how a simple natural phenomenon, once a curiosity, evolved into a fundamental force that shaped scientific knowledge, technological progress, and global exploration. The history of origami. Origami, the art of paper folding, began in Japan around the 17th century, though some forms of paper folding likely existed earlier in China and Europe. Originally, it served both practical and ceremonial purposes. Folding paper required precision and patience, teaching principles of geometry, spatial reasoning, and manual skill. Early origami creations included figures for rituals, symbolic representations for weddings and religious ceremonies, and simple recreational designs. Over time, origami evolved into a recognized art form, celebrated not only for its aesthetic appeal but also for the skill and discipline it demands. Artists developed increasingly intricate models, from birds and flowers to elaborate modular designs composed of multiple interconnected pieces. Each fold, crease, and angle carried meaning, transforming a simple sheet of paper into a representation of nature, culture, or abstract concepts. Origami also influenced storytelling, with folded figures serving as symbols in educational and cultural narratives. In modern times, its principles have extended beyond art into mathematics and engineering. Concepts from origami folding patterns inspire innovations in areas such as robotics, space exploration, and medical devices, demonstrating that the practice bridges creativity and practicality. The appeal of origami lies in its combination of simplicity and complexity. A single sheet of paper without cuts or glue can become a crane, a dragon, or a geometric sculpture. The practice emphasizes patience, concentration, and imagination, showing how humble materials can be transformed into something visually striking and meaningful. Origami continues to thrive as a tradition, educational tool, and source of inspiration for artists, designers, and scientists alike, reflecting the enduring human fascination with folding, shaping, and transforming the world around us. The history of umbrellas. Umbrellas have a history stretching back more than 4,000 years, originally appearing in ancient Egypt and China. In those early civilizations, they were symbols of status and power, primarily used by royalty and nobility to shield themselves from the sun. These early umbrellas were often crafted from wood, silk, or paper, and featured decorative designs that reflected wealth and cultural identity. Over time, umbrellas evolved from sunshades into practical tools for protection against rain. In Asia, they were refined with waterproof oils and treated fabrics, while in Europe, folding and collapsible frames were introduced during the 17th and 18th centuries, making them more portable and widely accessible. As the design improved, umbrellas became not only functional but also fashionable accessories. Artisans experimented with materials, colors, and patterns, turning umbrellas into statements of personal style. The umbrella's journey highlights human creativity and adaptability. It illustrates how a simple concept, blocking sun or rain, can be transformed through innovation, engineering, and aesthetic sensibility. Beyond their everyday practicality, umbrellas carry cultural significance, marking status, taste, and craftsmanship in different societies. Today, they remain an essential part of life around the world, bridging centuries of design and function, showing how a single invention can endure, adapt, and continue to serve both practical and symbolic purposes. The history of perfume. Perfumes date back thousands of years to ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, where aromatic oils and resins were used not only for personal hygiene but also in religious rituals and as markers of social status. These early scents often came from flowers, herbs, and rare resins imported from distant lands, making them symbols of wealth and prestige. Over centuries, perfumery developed into a sophisticated art, combining chemistry, botany, and creativity to craft complex fragrances that could evoke emotions, memories, or specific atmospheres. By the Renaissance, European perfumers began experimenting with distillation and blending techniques, turning scent into a form of luxury and personal expression. Today, perfume continues to bridge culture, commerce, and artistry, preserving centuries-old traditions while adapting to modern tastes. The story of the first refrigerators. Before the invention of refrigeration, storing food was a constant challenge. Perishable items like meat, dairy, and fresh produce spoiled quickly, leading to waste, limited diets, and the spread of foodborne illnesses. People relied on salt, smoke, drying, fermentation, or ice harvested in winter to preserve food. But these methods were often labor-intensive, seasonal, and only partially effective. The introduction of iceboxes in the 19th century provided a first step toward mechanical refrigeration. Early iceboxes used large blocks of ice to keep perishable items cool, allowing households to store food for longer periods. However, ice had to be delivered regularly, and the system could be inconsistent. The real transformation came with the development of electric refrigerators in the early 20th century. These appliances could maintain a consistent low temperature, dramatically extending the shelf life of foods while preserving flavor, texture, and nutrients. Households no longer needed to plan meals around spoilage. Restaurants could safely handle larger inventories, and food industries could expand distribution far beyond local markets. Refrigeration reshaped daily life, giving families more flexibility, improving nutrition, and reducing the risk of foodborne disease. It also altered global trade and commerce, making previously rare or seasonal foods widely available. Dairy, meat, fruits, vegetables, and frozen goods could be transported across continents, contributing to new culinary traditions and habits. By controlling temperature, Refrigeration revolutionized not only homes, but also agriculture, shipping, and restaurants. It stands as one of the most impactful technologies for public health, convenience, and the global availability of fresh and safe food, fundamentally transforming how people store, prepare, and enjoy what they eat. The invention of the steam engine. Long before cars, planes, or electric motors, the world ran on steam. The steam engine became the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution, a machine that turned heat into power and reshaped nearly every part of daily life. The earliest versions appeared in the early 18th century, when Thomas Newcomen built a device to pump water from flooded coal mines in England. It was slow and inefficient, but it worked, proof that steam could do what human and animal labor could not. A few decades later, James Watt improved on Newcomen's design, adding a separate condenser that made the engine far more powerful and efficient. Watt's refinements turned the steam engine from a curiosity into a driving force of industry. Factories began to hum with activity, using steam to power spinning frames, hammers, and presses. Mines could dig deeper, ships could travel against the wind, and railways soon carried people and goods farther than ever before. Towns grew around factories, and cities swelled with workers drawn to the promise of steady employment. Steam changed not just how things were made, but how people lived and moved. Trains connected distant places, carrying letters, coal, and families across landscapes once thought impassable. The steady rhythm of pistons and gears marked the arrival of a new age, one where progress was measured not by muscle or wind, but by the hiss and pulse of steam itself. The power of letting go. Sometimes, the most profound wisdom isn't something you hold tightly, but something you release. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or giving up. It means making space. Space for new thoughts, new experiences, and quiet moments of clarity. It's like leaves drifting slowly from a tree in autumn or clouds gliding across a calm sky. Releasing what no longer serves you, old worries, tension, or regrets, allows your mind and heart to breathe. In the quiet that follows, small joys often become more visible. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of distant birds, or simply the rhythm of your own breath. Letting go is not passive. It is an active choice to honor the present, to accept what is, and to invite peace in. By making room for stillness, you allow your thoughts to settle like sediment in clear water, revealing clarity and understanding. When you let go, you are not losing. You are gaining perspective, freedom, and a lighter heart. Embrace it, and let the world settle around you as you settle within yourself. Thank you for listening. This is the end of this video. Now you can let your mind rest, or simply let these facts drift quietly in the background. Take a deep breath, relax, and allow yourself to unwind as you continue your day, evening, or night. Stay curious.